But no matter how Ling Wenbin struggled, and how he questioned, it was an unchangeable end for him. The last scene he saw was the blustering surge of fire sea, with waves covering the sky and earth. Later on, no one knew what happened. Huang Yueli didn't bother to check on Ling Wenbin's fate. That old fellow had done many evil deeds, he was doomed to die, so she had nothing to do with him anymore. She followed the indications on the treasure map, and successfully left the huge stone array. Soaring Heaven's continent was presently in the middle of the serene night. Huang Yueli raised her head high up as she gazed at the stars in the sky, and using the stars, she distinguished her current location. Without further delays, she set off towards Celestial Light Sect's direction. Not a sound was heard. In a small town just a short distance of less than 5 miles from the inheritance tower, inside an inn, Li Moying was sitting in front of the bed, a wine cup in his hands, as he raised his head to look at the pitch-black sky. It had already been over a month since Huang Yueli's disappearance. He had mobilized every single person he had on his hands, searched all the places surrounding Celestial Light Sect, and even sent someone to search along the way back to South Yu Kingdom, but he had yet to find any real clues. For a while, Li Moying had even suspected if it was Liu Buyan who had secretly saved Huang Yueli. Hence he intentionally sent someone to follow Liu Buyan, but discovered that he had just found out about Huang Yueli's disappearance and was searching for her too. Huang Yueli seemed to be like a fog, blown away by the wind, as she dissipated under the sun, disappearing without a trace. Li Moying's feelings had first started from being anxious, infuriated, frustrated, changing into the current deep obsessiveness. Leah, where on earth are you? Why is it that you've met with danger, but had not come to look for me to protect you? Or, have you already been saved by someone? No matter what, no matter how long it has been, I will never give up. I believe that you're not dead. You must be somewhere, waiting for me. Li Moying silently raised his wine cup, as he put into his mouth and downed it in one gulp. Whereas not too far away, on the other side of the corridor, the shadow guards exchanged looks, and all they could see from one another's eyes were a deep sense of worry. Among them, the only one who was missing was Mo Yi. Now it was Mo who was leading them, and all their gazes fell onto him at the same time. Mo alertly shrugged his shoulders, as he lowered his voice. Why are you all looking at me for? Second brother, you know, the full moon's night is coming again. Sweat immediately formed on Moa's forehead. Of course I know, in another 7 days it will be full moon, but even if you all looked at me, I don't know what to do as well. Last time brother Mo Yi colluded with Principal Jiang, and both of them weaved a lie to cheat Master back to the sect. After Master's illness recovered, he flew into a huge rage. If it hadn't been for the fact that eldest brother had followed him loyally for many years, his life would probably be lost by now. I'm a coward, I don't dare to imitate eldest brother. But, second brother, how can we go on like this? Master had spent the entire time searching for third miss, under the conditions of neglecting sleep and food every single day. If his illness were to act up under these conditions, it would be very severe. If he's not in the sect, won't it be very difficult to control? Do you think I don't know that? But now, to make Master agree to return would be either he himself come round to it, third miss showing herself and we managed to find her. Moa replied. Master's feelings towards third miss really runs deep. You can also listen on. Isn't that so? Previously someone were guessing that Master despised third miss for her background and separated with her, in order to marry the sect master's daughter. You all don't know how many people are spreading such things within the sect, as though they've seen it with their own eyes. We should really make them come over and take a look personally. Alright, stop talking about all these. The current problem is still, how can we make Master return to the sect before full moon's night? The topic was pulled right back, so everyone entered a state of silence once again. Just at this moment, from afar, Li Moying's cold voice was heard. Moa. Moa shivered all over, but not daring to waste any time, he immediately ran over and bowed. Master, your instructions please. L. Moying put down his wine cup, and replied in a low voice, continue searching around the area for the next 3 days. 3 days later, if there's still no news of Leah, then prepare to return to Celestial Light Sec. Ah! Moa suddenly went into a blank. He really didn't expected Li Moying to be so cooperative, spontaneously suggesting to return to Celestial Light Sect. They, shadow guards, were still worried, and afraid that Li Moying would not care about his own life because of Huang Yueli. Li Moying noticed his expression and explained in a rare occasion, "Leah has not been found, so I cannot go down like that. From the looks of the current situation, it would be a difficult feat to find her and may spend a lot of time, so I have to keep my life so that I can protect her. Moreover, Leah said this before, wishing for me to take good care of myself, I cannot not listen to her." Moa heard his words, as his feelings got even more complicated. On one hand, he was filled with joy, yet on the other, he was filled with worry. The joyous part was, Li Moying finally knew how to take care of his own body, at least he wouldn't ignore his soul detachment illness, putting his life at stake or taking it as a joke. But what made Moa worried was, Li Moying still kept talking about Leah whenever he opened his mouth. For his feelings to run so deep, if something really happened to Third Miss, Moa simply didn't dare to continue thinking along that line. He hurriedly lowered his head and responded, "Master, please be assured, even if you return to Celestial Light Sect to recuperate, the rest of us will do our best to search for her and absolutely not delay Master's matter." Li Moying nodded, as he was just about to say something. Just at this moment, a blinding light flashed from outside the window, as though a lightning had descended from the sky, but in a flash, it disappeared without a trace. Li Moying frowned. What was that? Moa was stunned momentarily, as he replied, "I have no idea. But some time ago while searching this place, we've heard some villagers mentioned that they often came across the mysterious lightning. Sometimes it would also occur in daytime and many people said, this was Thunder God's punishment. The villagers do not dare to go to the wilderness during night time." Li Moying frowned as he went into deep thoughts, when suddenly he stood up and walked out of the door. "Get Mo-san and Mo-sai along, go out with me." Moa hurriedly followed. "Master, where are we going? I feel that the flash of light has a problem. It didn't look like lightning, but it seemed like, what?" Li Moying didn't continue speaking, but only hurried his footstep. An hour later, Li Moying and his shadow guards arrived at the nearby wilderness. This position was the exact position where the flash of light had appeared and was the position of the inheritance tower as it appeared every 49 days. Only, unfortunately, he came too late. You can also listen on. Now, the inheritance tower had once again disappeared in the void space, whereas Huang Yueli didn't want it to delay any further, so she set off in the middle of the night, rushing towards Celestial Light Sect. Both directions were the exact opposite, so they didn't manage to meet up. Li Moying brought his men as they searched the wilderness for an entire round, but had not caught sights of anyone. But, after Moa surveyed one round, he suddenly started shouting in shock, "Look, there's a hairpiece here." Li Moying immediately moved, as he appeared by his side, and his vision fell onto that hairpiece. He immediately recognized that this hairpiece was the one which Huang Yueli usually liked very much. When Li Moying had been staying with her in Celestial Light Academy, he practically saw her wearing it daily. Could it be that Leah really appeared nearby this place? Li Moying gripped hard on that hairpiece, as his frown grew tighter. Huang Yueli totally wasn't aware that because she had ran too fast, she actually missed Li Moying. If she knew this earlier, she would absolutely wait there obediently, for him to pick her up. Alas, even 1,000 gold was unable to buy something foreseeable. The second morning, Huang Yueli arrived at the small town in front. Now in the nearby towns, Li Moying's men were stationed there searching for her. But as Huang Yueli didn't know what they were up to, only feeling that the search was tense and the atmosphere was extremely fishy, so in order to avoid trouble, she intentionally avoided those disorderly towns and picked the smaller routes to proceed. 3 days later, she successfully arrived at Celestial Light Sect's front mountain. Celestial Light Sect was indeed the South Sky region's #1 sect. From the looks of the front mountain's main entrance, it looked extremely majestic and imposing, and there were many disciples wearing the sect's uniform which bore the logo walking around keeping surveillance. Other than the sect's disciples, outsiders were completely not allowed in. A young boy who wanted to formally become an apprentice to a master was pleading hard, but he was being bluntly kicked out. Huang Yueli stopped at a distance around 1 mile or so before the sect, pondering how she could explain her identity to the guards around the entrance. If she claimed that she was their young sect master's fiancé, would they believe in it? Or should she find another reason which would allow her to meet Li Moying easily? Just as she was in deep thoughts, suddenly a luxurious carriage helmed by 8 dark green-maned snow horses speeded from afar as it stopped at the sect's main entrance. The door curtain opened, and an exceptional beauty walked down from the carriage. This person, to Huang Yueli, was not a stranger at all. She was Murong Fei. The minute Huang Yueli saw her, she subconsciously drew back her head and hid behind a large rock nearby, not wanting to let her see herself. But she had already expanded her soul trace, putting in all her concentration, trying to hear when she was going to leave. Murong Fei got off the carriage and all the guards went up to welcome her. "Eldest young miss, you're back. Welcome, eldest young misses, return to the sect." Murong Fei bore a noble demeanor from a wealthy family, as the smile which hung on her lips was faint yet reserved, as she nodded towards everyone. Just as she was about to enter the entrance, she suddenly stopped and called out to a guard. "This junior brother." The guard's face immediately flushed red, as he displayed an overwhelmed by favor from superior look. "Yes. Eldest young miss, are you calling me?" Murong Fei nodded and asked, "Has eldest senior brother returned back during these days when I'm out?" The guard shook his head, replying, "Eldest young miss, young sect master has not returned for close to a month. You can also listen on." Murong Fei's expression turned slightly ugly then, as her sharp manicured nails almost dug into her own palms. Luckily, she recalled that she was still at the front mountain and under everyone's sights. She had to maintain her dainty and noble image. She forcefully suppressed the rage and sour feeling in her heart as she asked again, "That means, ever since the last full moon's night, eldest senior brother went out and have not returned?" "Yes," the guard replied. Murong Fei nodded. "All right, I've got it. Well, if eldest senior brother returns, please look for me immediately. Eldest young miss, please be assured, I guarantee that I will complete this mission." Huang Yueli secretly heard their conversation and couldn't help but frown. She had not expected that Li Moying was not in the sect. Why did he go out for? Surely it wasn't to search for her, right? Then what should she do now? Where should she go and find him? Furthermore, if Li Moying wasn't here, she probably had no way to convince the entrance guards and would not be able to enter Celestial Light Sect. Probably she would be chased out immediately, just like that young boy who was trying to become an apprentice. Just as she was still considering, Murong Fei already walked into the sect. As she was walking, she lowered her volume as she talked to the people beside her. Even though she had already intentionally suppressed her volume, but after soaking in Phoenix's blood, Huang Yueli's 5 senses became exceptionally agile, which was something that ordinary practitioners could not imagine, and she faintly heard what the duo's conversation. "Damn it, you trash should all die. Haven't I instructed you, to not spare any effort, to find that wretched slut before eldest senior brother? Why is it that such a long time has already passed and there are no clues at all? Then what's the point for me to feed you bunch of trash, for nothing?" Murong Fei was just walking into the sect, and on seeing that there's no one around, she couldn't help but acted up. Her few bodyguards lowered their heads, not daring to look at this eldest young miss who acted like a gentlewoman in front of others but an unruly woman behind. Eldest young miss, please listen to our explanation. We have already tried our best to search for her. But, young sect master brought out all his shadow guards to search as well. We must avoid his men, so we could only act in secret. Otherwise, if young sect master finds out our whereabouts, and starts to suspect eldest young miss, then that would really be great trouble. Excuses. All these are excuses. Haven't I told you this already? The person who is trying to assassinate Bai Ruoli is Celestial Light Academy's Vice Principal Ling Wenbin. Eldest senior brother doesn't know how to find him, but I have a secret code with Ling Wenbin. You all know this secret code, but still unable to find them. When Huang Yueli heard these, her entire person was in shock. From Murong Fei's words, she had already understood that Li Moying was not in Celestial Light Sect, because he knew about her disappearance, and ran out to search for her. Furthermore, he had already been searching for more than a month. Not only that, Ling Wenbin assassinating her, indeed was linked to Murong Fei, who had collaborated with him beforehand. Murong Fei was the mastermind who wanted to secretly kill her. Her bodyguards hurriedly tried to explain, "Eldest young miss, this is a huge grievance. We had already followed according to the secret code that you've given us, and tried ways and means to contact him in all channels, but Vice Principal Ling didn't appear at all. Surely something shouldn't have happened to him, right?" Murong Fei immediately gave a cold harumph. "Accident? What accident could there be? You can also listen on. Do you think that Ling Wenbin belongs to the same kind of trash as you? He is a genuine 7th stage realm practitioner who had been established for a long time. The opponent he is assassinating is a mere 3rd stage realm peak practitioner. Will he not be able to deal with her? That little slut with the surname Bai can't even defeat me and only knew how to hide behind eldest senior brother's back, pretending to be weak. This time eldest senior brother doesn't bother about her. What else can she come out with? It's impossible for her to escape." Murong Fei gritted her teeth as she said that. But, although her words were firm and her vow was solemn, but there was a faint restless feeling in her heart. Because although she used words to look down on Huang Yueli, despising her to dregs, but in her inner heart, she admitted that Huang Yueli indeed had some ability, and was very abnormal. Last time when she challenged her in Celestial Light Academy, not knowing what happened, her attack was actually rebounded, causing her to fall into a miserable state. This wretched lass was sinister and sly, perhaps. Ling Wenbin might have fallen into her trap by mistake, which wasn't an impossible matter to happen. But, no matter how Murong Fei thought, she would never guessed that Ling Wenbin had already died under Huang Yueli's hand. In her view, or from any ordinary person's point of view, a 7th stage realm 2nd level pursuing a 3rd stage realm 9th level, there absolutely wasn't any other suspense. No matter how smart or tricky Huang Yueli was, the disparity between 4 huge realms was an unsurpassable heavenly moat. Under absolute potential, no schemes or tricks would be of use. The guards were worried that Murong Fei would fly into a rage on the spot and didn't dare to rebuke her, so they could only admit that they had failed to put in their best effort. Murong Fei clenched her teeth as she continued, "Now, gather more people to search. Search every single corner to find her. Even if you dig 3 meters underground, you have to find her. After you find her, execute her on the spot, and whoever can bring her head to find me, I guarantee that I will get my father to take him in as a direct disciple." The guards were originally disinclined and wanted to casually put up a show to pacify her, but upon hearing such a promise, everyone started to get excited. To become the sect master's direct disciple. This was the highest achievement which all Celestial Light Sect disciples were chasing after in their entire life. Once they were taken in by Sect Master, that would be equivalent to a carp leaping to transform into a dragon. They would become the crowd's revered object instantly, there would be endless supply of high-leveled cultivation methods and pills, and they didn't need to be the guards for some young miss or young master and put in all their concentration on cultivating. Hearing that, the guards started patting their chests to guarantee that they would find Huang Yueli, and moreover thought of various ways to kill her. Murong Fei thought for a moment and said, "No, just based on the few of you, I'm not assured. That little slut, Bai Ruoli, had very high innate talent. Perhaps you're all not her match. How about this? I've already contacted the 4 elders and 2nd senior brother Li Lingchuan, and they have all agreed to help me. The minute you find Bai Ruoli's whereabouts, you must come look for me or those few elders and not alert her, so that we can take her down in one strike. And remove this trouble forever. Yes, eldest young miss, please be assured. This time round, even if this wretched lass has wings, she can stop dreaming of flying away. That's right, where did this country lass come from? Actually wanted to snatch eldest young Miss Man, can't even look at her own reflection, just based on her. Is she even worthy of our heroic and manly, suave and handsome young sect master? You can also listen on. Totally. Only eldest young miss, this kind of peerless beauty, has the right to stand next to young sect master. Eldest young miss, please be assured, we will definitely find that little slut. The guards were hollering loudly to express their loyalty as they left filled with determination. A sinister glint flashed beneath Murong Fei's eyes, as she gritted her teeth and spat out, "Bai Ruoli, since you dare to go against me, then don't blame me for being vicious. As long as you die, one day, eldest senior brother will realize that I'm the one who treats him the best, the most passionate. Since you've already parted ways with eldest senior brother, then might as well cut off cleanly. It'd be best if the both of you belong to different worlds, so you better not appear for the rest of your life. Murong Fei clenched her fists as she turned and walked into the deep end of the sect. Following that, as the distance was just too far away, even if it was Huang Yueli, she could not hear any other things. That was when she finally showed herself from the big tree which she was hiding behind, and her slender brows rose slightly, feeling that this matter was a little hard to deal with. Murong Fei wanted her life. She wasn't surprised at all. Even the fact that Murong Fei colluded with Ling Wenbin, this was also within her expectations. But Huang Yueli had not expected Murong Fei to hate her so much. Besides that she had already been very careful, she had mysteriously gone missing for more than a month, but Murong Fei still wanted her life so badly that she ordered her man to dig 3 meters underground to find her. Huang Yueli originally thought of finding an excuse to express her identity to the guards. Even if she could not meet Li Moying himself, but as long as she was able to see one of his shadow guards, she would be able to stay in Celestial Light Sect openly, and someone would inform Li Moying of her when he's back. However, after she saw Murong Fei, she couldn't help but admitted that her initial thinking was just too simple. Li Moying had brought all his shadow guards away, so now there wasn't a single person whom she knew in the entire Celestial Light Sect. Plus the fact that there was a Murong Fei who eyes covetously if she found out about her whereabouts. Huang Yueli wasn't afraid of Murong Fei taking a move against her personally. Ever since her advancement, Murong Fei was no longer her match. But such a large sect like Celestial Light Sect, after all the concrete background runs deep, and every single elder were at least of 8-stage realm cultivation. If she really fought with Murong Fei in Celestial Light Sect, under the circumstances where Li Moying was not there to aid her, if Murong Fei were to find the elders for help, then her life would be in peril. No, there was no way she would take this kind of risk. But for her to leave like this, she didn't know where to look for Li Moying. Could it be that she had to wait at the entrance of Celestial Light Sect daily, waiting for his return? But heavens knows when Li Moying would return. If he set his heart that if he couldn't find her, he would not return, then wouldn't she be waiting in vain? Just as Huang Yueli was at a loss, and she was indecisive, another burst of bustle was heard from Celestial Light Sect's main entrance. Yet another carriage stopped at the mountain entrance. This carriage, as compared to the one which Murong Fei sat in, was obviously of much lower class, and the magical beast which was pulling the carriage was an ordinary first-tier magical beast. The cabin was very large. Apparently there were many people who were seated inside. The carriage stopped, and a lot of people got off from the cabin. There were a total of 10 over people. Huang Yueli raised her head and was silently shocked, because these 10 people were people whom she had met before. They were all Celestial Light Academy's student. You can also listen on. People like Yuan Zhayu, Lu Ziju, and such top talents in Celestial Light Academy's martial arts stage, they were all present. And among these top experts, there were 2 whom she was extremely familiar with. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang. These 2 had agreed to follow her. Celestial Light Academy students who acknowledged her as master were also among this crowd. Huang Yueli was pleasantly surprised because seeing the both of them meant that she had found her helpers. Although she had no idea why they had come to Celestial Light Academy, but they were connected by the blood pact, so it was impossible for them to betray her, so she definitely would be able to obtain their aid. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli retrieved a paper and pen from her sleeves and speedily wrote a note, then creasing it into a bundle, she sewed her finger and flicked it. The paper bundle flew silently and landed on Su Qingyueli's bosom, then later bounced and coincidentally dropped into her sleeves. Su Qingyu had not noticed it initially, and it was only until she reached the place where she was staying before she found a note in her sleeve. Upon opening it up and taking a look, she almost jumped with joy from the shock, and not caring that her outer robe was not dressed properly yet, she ran to look for Yu Xinyang. Xinyang, Xinyang. Great news, Sister Li is not dead, she sent me a message. What? Yu Xinyang also hurriedly dashed out from his room. The both of them held on to the note, and looked at it against the light, and it was written, I'm near Celestial Light Sect, staying in the town's largest inn on the west side, 3rd room. Tonight at 12 o'clock, Find a chance to come and look for me. Anonymous. Although it was stated as anonymous, but both of them recognized Huang Yueli's words. We must find a way to slip out and meet Sister Li, Su Qingyu said. Yu Xinyang appeared to be more cautious, but, wasn't it said that third Mrs. whereabouts probably bode ill? Why would she suddenly appear at Celestial Light Sect? Could this be fake? Even if this is fake, for Sister Li, we have to take the risk and go over. Midnight that night, the night was quiet. Huang Yueli sat alone in the room, waiting for the both of them. Just after midnight, knocking sound was heard from the outside of her door. Come in, Huang Yueli said in a low-pitched voice. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang pushed the door open, and they were so agitated that they almost screamed out loudly. Sister Li, it's you. It's really you. You're still alive. Yes, third miss, we thought something happened to you, and we're all very worried. Huang Yueli asked curiously, how did you know that something unfortunate happened to me? I remember that before I left, I told you all that I'm leaving just to settle something. Su Qingyu replied, Sister Li, you don't know, when you just left, we indeed didn't realize that something was wrong. Just that Yu Xinyang once told me that the link between his and your blood pact seemed to become weaker than usual. We thought it was because the distance between you two were too far, so we didn't suspect anything. But, later on, after many days, you didn't appear. Instead, senior brother Li suddenly returned to the sect, bringing a lot of men along. From that day onwards, Principal Jiang sent his men to watch out for your whereabouts in the academy, and every single person in the academy was interrogated. As Xiaoyang and I are closer to you, we'd been interrogated several times. It was then that we realized that you have mysteriously disappeared. Furthermore, senior brother Li is actually Celestial Light Sect's young sect master. You can also listen on. Yu Xinyang also chimed in, that's right, when we heard that senior brother Li was actually young sect master, the entire academy bubbled up, because this news really made everyone surprised, totally shocked beyond word. Especially those people who are usually jealous of you, for example, Li Shuer, when she heard that your fiancé is Celestial Light Sect's young sect master, she was so scared till she fainted there and then. Su Qingyu smiled, as she continued, when young sect master returned to the sect, weren't there quite a number of people who said that you were ditched by him, and was a pitiful, unlovable abandoned woman? That day when young sect master rushed into the academy in anxiety, his expression looked as though he was about to murder someone. TSK, no matter who saw that, would not misinterpret it wrongly, young sect master simply loves you to no end. Sister Li, you really made all of us envious, to think that you can control young sect master. Huang Yueli started to get a little embarrassed upon hearing what Su Qingyu said. When did I control him? It's all because he's a willing party. Moreover, what's wrong with young sect master? Don't say young sect master, even if it's Soaring Heavens Continent's #1 expert. If he wanted to be with me, then he'd have to treat me like his goddess. Originally, Huang Yueli and Li Moying's status was just too far apart. If it was another girl bearing the same status as Huang Yueli saying such things, one would definitely feel that she's overestimating herself. But hearing Huang Yueli said that, Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang just felt that it was a matter of fact. They understood Huang Yueli's innate talent, potential and knowledge the best, so naturally they knew that based on her own ability, even if it was in front of a large sect like Celestial Light Sect's young master, she would not make a fool of herself. On the contrary, only a man like Li Moying was worthy of Huang Yueli, to allow her to humble herself out of her own will, to be together with him. Su Qingyu smiled for a while, before her expression started to turn solemn. From the start, although we were all surprised, but hearing that young sect master had personally brought his men over, we felt that they probably would be able to find you quickly. But as time went by, you were not found. Xinyang and myself also joined in the search party, looking for you everywhere but still wasn't able to locate you. Many people guessed that something probably happened to you. Young sect master was said to fell very ill, so sad that he wished to die. As Su Qingyu was saying, she carefully checked on Huang Yueli's expression. Huang Yueli's brows were indeed tangled together. What she thought of was Li Moying's soul detachment illness. She wasn't by Li Moying's side, so when that man's illness acted up, he would definitely feel especially upset, plus the fact that he was so worried about her, under both elements crisscrossing, it might just drag his body down. Su Qingyu saw her worried look, and hurriedly persuaded, luckily, we heard that young sect master had regained conscious and is now out and about, looking for you. As long as he gets the news that you're safe and sound, I believe no matter how serious his illness is, it would be cured without the need for any medication. Huang Yueli heaved a deep sigh, let's hope so. Following that, she asked again, what's the matter with the both of you? Why are you with Yuan Zheyu and the rest, appearing in Celestial Light Sect? Coming to this topic, Su Qingyue's face revealed a smile. Sister Li, you didn't expect it, right? 10 days ago, was Celestial Light Sect's yearly examination date for selecting outer disciples among the core student. Yu Xinyang and myself took part in this examination, and we ran into luck, passing this round's examination and officially became Celestial Light Sect's outer disciple. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli blinked her pretty eyes, as she appeared extremely surprised with joy. Oh, so it's like this. Then this time I must really congratulate you both. I'd not expected that both your potentials to have such a huge improvement. I remember when I left, the both of you were still not core students. It's just barely been 2 months and you've already became Celestial Light Sect's outer disciples. Looks like, my foresight is indeed correct. Yu Xinyang was full of smiled, as he humbly replied, Third Miss, you're overpraising us. You know best what quality we are. If it wasn't because of the cultivation methods and profound skills which you've given us, and those pills which raises cultivation and cultivation speed, I'm afraid we'd not get to even become core students, not to mention the day to join Celestial Light Sect. Huang Yueli smiled as she shook her head, even if I have given you the cultivation methods and pills, but if you didn't had enough power of comprehension to comprehend the cultivation methods, and didn't had enough determination to continue cultivation day and night, you wouldn't be able to achieve so much within such a short span of time. I believe in the both of you, as long as you can aid me properly, I still have plenty of better cultivation methods, profound armaments and pills, I will not treat you poorly. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang exchanged glances, as their eyes were filled with joy. When Huang Yueli went missing, they were upset for quite a long time. Other than the relationship and feelings that they shared, they also felt that without Huang Yueli's aid, it was not possible for them to gain any higher achievement in the way of cultivation. They had not expected that Huang Yueli actually came back to life. There were hopes for their future. Su Qingyu hurriedly asked, That's right, Sister Li, I haven't had the time to ask, why did you go missing this time? Is it really like what the others were spreading, that you were being assassinated, and was heavily injured? Huang Yueli kept silent for a moment, and briefly explained the scenario of her death pursuit by the assassinator. Of course, she didn't mention the matter regarding the inheritance tower, but only mentioned that Murong Fei and Ling Wenbin's colluding, trying to kill her during her way here. In the end, she managed to escape to a hidden place and hid herself as she recuperated. It was only after she recovered that she left that place, thinking to find Li Moying. The both of them were infuriated as they listened to her story, helping her berate Ling Wenbin and Murong Fei's shamelessness. Huang Yueli heard them for a while before she shook her head to cut them off. All right, the matter's already happened, so there's no meaning in saying too much. Anyway, Ling Wenbin is already dead, and as for Murong Fei, since she attempted to scheme against me like this, I'd personally take my revenge sooner or later. Absolutely will not let her off easily. Only, what's urgent now, is that I must find Li Moying as soon as possible. So what suggestions do you have towards this matter? Su Qingyu thought for a moment and said, Actually you need not specially look for young sect master. Because I heard from the others in the sect today mentioning that, young sect master had already confirmed, that he will return to Celestial Light Sect 3 days later. Hearing that, Huang Yueli suddenly thought of this. 3 days later, seemed to be full moon's night. Yes, if Li Moying was still rational enough, he should know that no matter how anxious he was, he shouldn't be outside swaggering, and should return to the sect. That meant that, she only needed to wait for him in Celestial Light Sect. Huang Yueli nodded and said, All right, I'll wait for him in Celestial Light Sect. Do you have any way to help me get into Celestial Light Sect? Yu Xinyang showed a difficult expression as he advised, Third Miss, I feel that you better not take the risk to enter Celestial Light Sect. What if Murong Fei found out? Then you'd be in danger. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli shook her head and said, no, if I'm not in Celestial Light Sect, how would I be able to meet Li Moying the minute he's back? But, I don't want to tear our faces apart with Murong Fei right now, so I have to go incognito. It'd be best if I can secretly infiltrate in. Do you have any idea? This is not an easy feat. That's right, Celestial Light Sect security is very tight and all the disciples can only enter based on their own identity tags. We also used tremendous strength before we managed to slip out secretly today. The two of them racked their brains for a moment, when Su Qingyue's eyes shone. I've an idea. Huang Yueli looked at her in anticipation. You have a way. Su Qingyu nodded as she said, among the students who became outer disciples, there is a junior sister Yi Xiao. She's just slightly older than you, 16 this year, extremely talented, and among the students to become outer disciples this year, she's the youngest. But her luck isn't very good. Just a few days before reporting to the sect, she suddenly ran into qi deviation while cultivating, which led to her suffering from heavy internal injury. She wasn't able to get up from bed, so she had no way to report. According to Celestial Light Sect's rules, if outer disciples were to get into an accident, their place would be preserved, and if she managed to report within a year, it will be counted. Junior sister Yi Xiao specially asked me to bring her identity tag along, to help her apply for leave from the sect's administrator. She raised her head and looked at Huang Yueli. You can pretend to be junior sister Yi and assume her identity to smuggle in. Huang Yueli joyously nodded as she said, this is a good idea, we shall do that. Su Qingyu paused, and suddenly said perplexedly, but, in this way, we have to find a skilled artist who excels in disguise, to change your looks into junior sister Yi's looks. Because all the Celestial Light Academy's students whom we came along with, all recognized junior sister Yi. Huang Yueli smiled when she heard that. We don't need to trouble anyone, I myself is a master of disguises. Just tell me how does Yi Xiao looks like will do. Su Qingyue's eyes opened wide as she looked at her in disbelief. Yu Xinyang also bore a shocked expression on his face. The both of them were having the same thoughts. This by Ruoli is just too abnormal, wasn't it? Why was it that she knew everything? She was even proficient in disguise, what else did she not know about? As they didn't had Yi Xiao's portrait, and it was all based on Su Qingyue's verbal description, so Huang Yueli spent an entire night's effort before successfully changing her countenance to Yi Xiao's looks. The minute dawn broke, the trio headed back to Celestial Light Sect. The disciple who was on guard duty took a look, and discovered that the three of them were wearing outer disciples' uniform, as a hint of disdain flashed past his eyes. Who are you guys? Show me your identity tags quickly. The trio retrieved their identity tags and showed it to him. After the guards saw it, his eyes were filled with even more disdain. Outer disciples who had just joined yesterday were on Celestial Light Sect's lowest level. Among the outer factotum they belonged to the lowest level, those kind where anyone could bully. He gave a cough as his tone turned extremely severe. You few, how dare you? As an outer disciple, you actually left the sect late at night and had not returned for the entire night. Do you know that this is against the sect's regulations? Just your first day here and you already dare to defy the regulations. Do you still want to mingle around here? Which administrator's disciples do you belong to? You can also listen on. When Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang heard that, they couldn't help but shuddered. They actually knew that slipping out of the sect yesterday was against the sect's regulations, but in order to meet Huang Yueli, they couldn't not take this risk. Furthermore, they had planned to rush back throughout the night. Whoever knew that, not only have they spent the night outside, furthermore, they brought back Huang Yueli, an imitation who had dressed up in disguise. The two of them already had a guilty conscience, and after being sternly interrogated by the guard, they were both shocked and frightened, not knowing how to reply. If the news about the just joining Celestial Light Sect and sent to the administrator for flouting the sect's regulations, they would be finished and perhaps, they might be thrown out of Celestial Light Sect on the spot. Ruining their own future was still all right, but the plans which Huang Yueli made to smuggle into Celestial Light Sect would immediately fail. This senior brother, please be appeased. Senior brother, it's our fault, please give us another chance. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang exchanged glances, as she hurriedly pleaded for mercy. The guard remained unmoved. Why? Now you know you're in the wrong. Pleading me for mercy? When you slipped out, why didn't you think of the consequences? I'm telling you, it's too late. Sect Master is just too nice to actually take you trash in from those small places. Strength, you don't have. Potential, you don't have too, and can't even understand regulations. The guard went on and on berating them. Apparently, he could find superiority from them. Those practitioners who were in charge of guarding the main entrance were all outer disciples. Although this was one of the better outer factotum jobs, but no matter what, they were still outer disciples. Usually they were often bullied or despised by those inner disciples of direct disciples who happened to walk past, so even if the other party was being unreasonable, but in the end when the sect master or elders casted condemnation, the first to get punished would always be these guards. He had long stomached an unpleasant feeling, so finally there were a few whose status were much lower than him, so naturally he must use all his might to bully them. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang had just arrived, and weren't sure of what was happening inside, so they didn't dare to rebuke him. The more Huang Yueli heard, the funnier she felt, as her lips coldly rose upwards and walked towards him. This senior brother, calling senior brother is of no use. Huang Yueli's right hand flipped, and retrieved a pile of exquisite wristband, as she secretly stuffed it into the guard's hands. Senior brother, I'm really sorry. We didn't return last night because some days ago, I entered Qi deviation while cultivating, and wasn't able to report to Celestial Light Sect in time. Yesterday, I just rushed over, and senior sister Su and senior brother Yu went to pick me up. This sort of special circumstances, we will not do it ever again, so please be magnanimous and let us off just this once. The guard had received something and his expression turned slightly better. Originally, he said so much, was just to use his authority, and hoping that they would present something. In the end, those two blockheads were so silly, other than pleading they did nothing else. He was still hesitant if he should made his words even more obvious, and finally someone had responded. This young lady seemed to be the youngest, but she knew how to act. At least she's much better than those two papaya brains. The guard mumbled as he said, Who do you think I am? Am I someone who you can casually bribe? You can also listen on. He originally wanted to hold for a moment, to see if he could squeeze something more out of them. But when he lowered his head to take a look, the minute he looked at it clearly, his eyes almost popped out, and momentarily, all the things he wanted to say were all stuck at the back of his throat. This, the young lady who stuffed the thing in his hands, was actually a pair of third-tier upper-grade wristband. He himself had merely just advanced to fourth-stage realm cultivation. Although he was in South Sky region's top-rated sect like Celestial Light Sect, but as an outer disciple, the advantages he could obtain was limited. Third-tier upper-grade profound armaments, to him, was absolutely an extremely valuable thing. If he wanted to buy it, he would have to throw in several years of savings into it, and he could only purchase the most inferior quality type. But now this young lady just offered a piece of third-tier upper-grade profound armament. Wasn't this a little too extravagant? What was her influence? The guard raised his head in astonishment as he stared at her, and at the same time Huang Yueli timely unleashed her own profound energies coercion. The guard shivered, and finally realized that the young lady in front of him was actually a fourth-stage realm practitioner. Furthermore, her cultivation was much higher than his. The guard's gaze towards her changed instantly, and his tone immediately turned much more polite. But, Celestial Light Sect isn't unreasonable. You guys indeed have some special circumstances, so this time round, I'll forget about it. In future, you must take note and not violate this again. If everyone were like you guys, not putting the regulations on your minds, how would things do? Huang Yueli nodded. Senior brother, please be assured, I guarantee that we won't do it again. The guard moved sideways to let them pass. Huang Yueli led Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang who were behind her, calmly walking right in. Even though she was the counterfeit who smuggled in, but she didn't display a single bit of guilt, as compared to the real Celestial Light Sect disciples, her performance was much more natural. Su Qingyu looked at her, and looked at the guard who was just putting on the third-tier upper-grade wrist guards to test it out. Her heart instantly ached. Sister Li, It's all our fault for the improper planning, causing you to lose such a good pair of wrist guard. Third tier upper grade profound armament, just to bribe that kind of bully. Sigh, what a pity. Such a waste of a heavenly item. A cold glint appeared beneath Huang Yueli's eyes. No issue, anyway it's just a third tier upper grade profound armament, I have lots of it here. The most important thing is to be able to smuggle into Celestial Light Sect and staying put. I have to keep a low profile and not attract anyone's attention, so for other matters, we'll just tolerate with it for now. Anyway, he didn't gain much. When she and Li Moying's relationship was announced, that guard probably would be shocked to death, so this kind of fellow wasn't worth her effort to deal with. Then, all right. Sister Li, come with me and let's report to the administrator first. Huang Yueli followed them, to the administrator's courtyard. On the way, Su Qingyu roughly described Celestial Light Sect Outer Disciples' situation. There was a large number of Celestial Light Sect Outer Disciples. Other than those practitioners who passed the examination to enter the sect, there were various upper-level elders or protectors' children, and some were talents, who were worth nurturing, sent over by large clans to Celestial Light Sect. Other than those, there would be some who came to the sect to ask for an apprenticeship. Although most of them were like that little boy whom Huang Yueli met yesterday, being thrown out, but there would be an extremely small number of lucky ones who would be selected by the sect's higher management who happened to pass by, who were then accepted under their wing. You can also listen on. As Su Qingyu was explaining, she started to grumble softly. Before entering the sect, I never knew that there were so many outer disciples. Furthermore, the status of outer disciples in the sect is very lowly, being ignored by everyone everywhere. Huang Yueli laughed as she thought nothing of this. What's so strange about this? When we were in Celestial Light Academy, weren't ordinary students also bullied by core students? In Soaring Heaven's Continent, power talks. Whoever has more power, naturally would have the right and ability to bully others. They were talking while walking and it didn't took much time when they reached the administrator's courtyard entrance. After getting someone to inform him, and after waiting for a long time, till the trio started to get impatient, finally a voice from inside summoned them in. The administrator's surname was Chen, and he looked like he was 40 over years old, with 2 strokes of moustache, which made him look wretched. He kept looking at Huang Yueli from head to toe, sizing her up, as he had an unfriendly tone. Why? Heard that you were into chi deviation a few days ago while you were cultivation, so you weren't able to report to the sect on time? As Celestial Light Sect's disciples, to actually commit such a silly mistake like this, doesn't it represent that you don't even know the most basic foundation of cultivation? Moreover, you tried to bite off more than you can chew. Can't you just be more down-to-earth and cultivate properly? We, Celestial Light Sect, only accept South Sky region's most outstanding talented practitioners, and they must be the most hard-working and steadfast practitioners, not like you. To tell the truth, if it wasn't for the fact that the sect has its regulations, I'm not even willing to let people like you report here. Anyway, with your attitude, in future you'd probably not have any large achievements, so Celestial Light Sect isn't short of people like you. Hearing Administrator Chen criticizing Huang Yueli in such a mean way, Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang were extremely furious, but they didn't dare to speak their mind. Huang Yueli's expression, however, did not change, nodding her head as she admitted her own mistake. At the same time, she brought out another piece of 4th-tier middle-grade profound artifact, as she tried the same routine earlier, to bribe Administrator Chen. After Administrator Chen accepted the item, he indeed turned magnanimous, as he asked her to leave, and telling them simultaneously, from tomorrow onwards, remember to report to the Factotum Department. Factotum Department? Su Qingyu asked curiously. Administrator Chen twisted his moustache, as he sneered, why? Don't even know about the Factotum Department. Know that to feed such a big bunch of disciples like you all, how much spirit stones is used and how much resources are wasted. You use and eat in the sect, shouldn't you use your energy to do some things for the sect? Want to be a freeloader? I'm telling you, every single outer disciple must take up a factotum. Those who don't want to work will be thrown out of Celestial Light Sect. As for other details, on that day, the people in the Factotum Department will explain further. After they left, Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang looked at each other with dismay. Really never expected that. We need to do odd jobs. I thought we were here to cultivate. Huang Yueli merely smiled. In her previous life, she was the young sect master of a large sect, so she naturally knew that all large sects' outer disciples were required to do factotum. Actually, the security in the large sect's internal departments, and since there were too many outer disciples, it was normal for them to use their manual work to exchange for a chance to cultivate, and they had no status within the sect. If they were able to improve further from an outer disciple, turning into an inner disciple, then that would really be a party whom the sect wanted to groom, so their status would be elevated by a huge notch. Not only do they not need to do factotum, there would be a stable amount of resources which they could obtain every month, and occasionally they would receive pointers from the sect's internal top experts. You can also listen on. But, the amount of nurturing which inner disciples could get was still very casual, and if they really wanted to make an achievement for themselves, they still need to become an apprentice formally to the sect master or those elders, to become direct disciples. Every elder would only have 10 direct disciples under their wings for their entire lifetime, so every single direct disciple would be able to get the sect's utmost nurturing and the elders' careful pointers, so their future achievements would also represent the elders' reputation. But wishing to become a direct descendant, the difficulty was just too high. Celestial Light Sect as the #1 sect in South Sky region, the standard which they used while selecting direct disciples, naturally were South Sky region's top-rated talents. From the people whom Huang Yueli met, Li Moying naturally was ridiculously strong, and this wasn't the normal standard, so he would naturally not be taken into consideration. But other than Li Moying, his second junior brother Li Lingchuan, fifth junior brother Luo Jiyun, and including Murong Fei, were all exceptional talents who had 8th grade innate talent. The other direct disciples whom the ordinary elders took in, totally could not be compared to sect master himself. But at the very least, they had at least 6th grade innate talent and above. To most practitioners, 6th grade innate talent simply was an existence which was legendary, an unimaginable genius. In Celestial Light Academy, Huang Yueli had already witnessed the so-called martial arts stage top 10, who were all famous talented youngsters in Sky Cloud City, but only Yuan Zheyu had barely reached 6th grade innate talent and above. As the others, don't assume that they had passed the examination and managed to join the sect, but in this place, they merely had the life of a cannon fodder. Huang Yueli smiled as she comforted Su Qingyu and party. Various large sects' outer disciples are all like this. There are many odd jobs around the sect, so surely there must be someone who had to do it, right? If it wasn't for this, I'm afraid that various large sect would not even take in so many outer disciples. If you feel indignant, then put in more effort, and when you become an inner disciple, then you can cultivate in peace. Amen. I will work hard. If we can't even become the sect's inner disciple, won't we be throwing away third Miss Face? Both of them put on a determined look, which made Huang Yueli extremely satisfied. The trip returned to the place where they were arranged to stay. Huang Yueli took a look at the surroundings, and as expected, although this place was considered rather clean, but it was extremely crowded, a large quantity of outer disciples staying together. One room had to inhibit 2 people. This was equivalent to where her servants in the manor in South Yu Kingdom stayed. Yu Xinyang was worried that this master of his would be upset with the place. After all, when Huang Yueli was in Celestial Light Sect, she enjoyed the highest privilege, staying alone in the courtyard with the most abundant profound qi. However, Huang Yueli herself couldn't care less about this. Anyway, it was only for a few nights, so there wasn't a need to be too picky. It wasn't as if she was someone who hadn't suffered before. Hearing the junior sister Yi, who went into qi deviation, suddenly recovered, and had rushed over to Celestial Light Sect to report, those 10 over students from Celestial Light Academy who had joined the sect, all came over to visit her. In the past, when they were in the academy, all of them were still battling against each other, but it was only a day when they reached Celestial Light Sect, and all of them had already realized that it wasn't easy to get about here. They were all from the same academy, so at least they were considered as related, so they must stay united together. So, everyone's attitude towards Huang Yueli was affectionate, and they even prepared presents for her, wishing her a speedy recovery. Only Yuan Zheyu seemed to sense something, as he stared at Huang Yueli's face for a long time before his eyes flowed out a suspecting look. You can also listen on. But Huang Yueli remained calm and collected from the start till the end, plus the fact that Yi Xiao was usually an extremely introverted young lady, seldom speaking to other people, so in the end Yuan Ziyu didn't manage to ask her anything. When everyone left, Huang Yueli finally heaved a sigh of relief. At least, she passed another round. The second morning, while Huang Yueli was still in her dreams, she heard a continuous bam 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 knocking sounds from outside. She rubbed her eyes as she sat up. On the bed opposite her, Su Qingyu had already woken up and was looking towards the window in fright. Huang Yueli asked curiously, "What's up with this?" Su Qingyu frowned. "I have no idea. The noise outside is so loud, it seemed like someone quarreling." "Quarreling so early in the morning? Something's wrong, let's go take a look." Huang Yueli got up from the bed and took a look at the mirror to ascertain that her disguise hadn't changed before opening the door, walking out. Su Qingyu followed right behind her, and the both of them had just reached the entrance when they heard an intense argument going on from the courtyard. "What is your meaning to this? This courtyard is personally allocated to us by Administrator Chen. What right do you have to ask us to move?" Lu Ziju blocked the entrance, as he cried out agitatedly. On the outside of the door, a tall and fat young man bore an arrogant sneer as he pushed Li Ziju hard. Lu Ziju was considered as a top-rated expert in Celestial Light Sect, but after one push by this fatty, his legs slipped and he almost fell onto the ground. He kept retreating back several steps before he managed to stabilize himself, as his face was immediately replaced with a guarded expression, looking anxiously at the fatty who pushed him. Fatty sneered, "You're asking me, Sir Fatty, what right do I have? He, just based on the fact that I'm stronger than you and based on the fact that I'm Celestial Light Sect Elder Wang's great-grandnephew. This courtyard has the densest profound qi among all the outer disciples' residents. How can students of such inferior quality like you guys even afford to stay here? Now that I've taken a liking to this courtyard, all of you hurry and scram. You simply are bullying intolerably. Right, what's the big deal? All of us are outer disciples only. Correct, even if you're Elder Wang's relative, surely you can't bully people based on your status, isn't it?" Fatty Wang looked at them with disdain as he continued, "Why? Still dare to resist? Looks like, if I don't teach you newcomers a lesson, you don't know how high the skies are or how deep the earth is. I'll give you 10 breath to consider. You want to scram yourselves, or I'll break your legs and throw you out." Those newly ascended outer disciples present were all specially selected from Celestial Light Academy. Even though they were all newcomers, but which one of them weren't core talents who were revered by the others in the academy? In the end, when they came here, it was only the third day when someone came over to pick a fight with them, and even ordered them to scram from their residence. Those who had a bit of rage in them would not be able to tolerate such a matter when they met with it. Immediately someone cried out, "Fellow surnamed Wang, don't think yourself as an upper-class person and that you are more superior than the others. So what even if you were here earlier in the sect? Do you really think we're all soft persimmons, for you to pinch to your liking? Let me show you some colors." Saying that, he shot upwards, and struck out a fist towards Fatty Wang's chest. Fatty Wang saw his aggressive punch incoming, but not only was he not worried, he even laughed heartily. "Ha ha ha ha, you're making me laugh so hard. Just this little bit of ability, and you even dare to be arrogant in the sec. Today, Sir Fatty, I will show you how things goes about here. You can also listen on." Su Qingyu cried out in shock, "Ah, isn't that our academy's Jiu Ihan? Why is he so rash?" Yu Xinyang had also came out for some time and was just standing behind him, displaying an angered look. "What rash? That fellow have already bullied us to our doorstep, this manner. Who can tolerate it? Senior brother Jiu, well done." Su Qingyu stared at him and said, "Why are you getting on with the bustle too? We've just arrived, and if we were to start fighting with the elder's relative, what good would come out of it? Senior brother Jiu is so rash, other than getting beaten up, what other advantages could he gain?" Yu Xinyang heard that and replied in an extremely unconvinced manner, "What does that mean? How do you know that senior brother Jiu would surely lose? That Fatty Wang is merely at 3rd stage realm peak cultivation, senior brother is at least on 3rd stage realm 8th level. The disparity between the two of them are not large, Senior brother Ji has lots of experience in battling opponents, so he might have a chance at victory. Yu Xinyang's words just ended as he heard Huang Yueli sighing by the side. Senior brother Yu, I think you're too optimistic. Senior brother Ji seems as though he's going to be in deep trouble. Everyone hurriedly raised their heads to take a look. While they were talking, Jiyu Ihan and Fatty Wang had already exchanged multiple blows. Jiyu Ihan's strikes were fast like lightning and aggressive, whereas Fatty Wang only kept giggling, totally disregarding his attacks. Anyone with eyes were able to tell that Fatty Wang was just playing around with him. After he had enough of tantalizing him, Fatty Wang finally sneered, as he said, "You only have those little tricks up your sleeves. Is there any more? If no, then this Sir Fatty is not going to stand on ceremony." Saying that, he suddenly struck out, as a remnant figure flashed past in midair. Immediately following that, Jiyu Ihan gave a miserable shriek, as his body was thrown up into midair, crashing heavily on the tree branch far away. The entire place was silent. No one had expected that Fatty Wang, who looked as fat as a pig, actually had such swift movement. Moreover, he intentionally showed off his might, so he intentionally hit out a heavy strike. Some students rushed beside Jiyu Ihan, and while trying to help him up, they realized that several ribs were broken, and he had sustained a very serious internal injury, so he couldn't get up at all. Senior brother Jiyu, how are you? Heavens, how could your injuries be so serious? Isn't that Fatty's moves a little too vicious? This really is too much. All of us are Celestial Light Sect's disciples. No matter what, we are pupils under the same master. How could you be so vicious? That's right. The sect regulations said that you cannot lay murderous hands on pupils from the same master. Let's go report this to the administrator. Those newly ascended disciples present were feeling indignant, but among them, Jiyu Ihan was already the top 5 most powerful person, so if even he had been beaten till this stage, then Fatty Wang's ability was somewhat imaginable. No matter how infuriated everyone was, but all of them had their own worries, so they only dared to stand there to berate him, and not daring to go up to punch him. Fatty Wang apparently understood this point, as his smile got even more gleeful, that wobbly fats on his face were shaking oily, looking extremely disgusting. You bunch of cowards, if you have the ability then come over and beat me back. What ability is that to secretly report to the administrator? Trash will be trash. You can go ahead and try reporting to the administrator, see if he will care about you all. The sect regulations indeed mentioned that we cannot lay a murderous hand on pupils from the same master, but I've not killed him, isn't it? Moreover, it was this trashy GU guy who started the fight, so Sir Fatty, I was only acting in self-defense. You can also listen on. Hearing such thick-skinned, shameless, turning black into white words, all of them were choking with anger, but none of them dared to stand out. Because Fatty Wang didn't come alone, he brought along a large group of outer disciples as his underlings. Fatty Wang waited for a moment, and seeing no one talk, he laughed loudly as he left his last diplomatic note. All right, since no one objects, then everyone let's hurry up your actions and move out quickly. Sir Fatty, I haven't slept well for the entire night, so I'm waiting to go in and sleep. Huang Yueli frowned, as she couldn't force herself to continue listening to his words. Although she didn't want to risk exposing her real identity on the first day of smuggling in, by fighting with someone, but this Fatty was just too arrogant, which no one could tolerate. She took a step forward and was just about to make a move. Suddenly, a voice was heard from the outside of the door. Senior brother Wang, although we newcomers have just reported to the sect and haven't gone around greeting the senior brothers, that is indeed our wrong, but surely you needn't push us so far, right? After all, we are all senior and junior brothers, so in future we will be meeting one another rather often, so why do this? Everyone hurriedly looked outside and a few of them expressed a joyous look. It's senior brother Yuan. That's great, senior brother Yuan is here. With senior brother Yuan here, he will be able to teach this disgusting Fatty a severe lesson. Everyone started cheering immediately. Actually, among these people, some of them had a feud with Yuan Ziyu, for example Yu Xinyang and the rest. In the past they were bullied by Yuan Ziyu's underlings. But, now was not like the past, everyone was trying to get on with their lives in Celestial Light Sect, especially now that the practitioners in Celestial Light Academy were all staying in the same courtyard. There was no exception for Yuan Zheyu. In order not to be chased out, he definitely would represent this courtyard to make a move. Everyone present knew clearly what was Yuan Zheyu's ability. Before Huang Yueli and Li Moying appeared, he was number 1 in Celestial Light Sect. Even the number 2's Lu Ziju wasn't his opponent. So even Huang Yueli heaved a sigh of relief. These Celestial Light Academy students' cultivations weren't much different from that bunch of guys who Fatty had brought along. The only difference was Fatty Wang was Celestial Light Sect's older people, so they had learnt various high-leveled profound skills, and it was especially advantageous when they faced each other. But Yuan Zheyu was a 6th grade upper-level talent, and he was born in the number 1 family in Sky Cloud City. The number of high-leveled profound skills he learnt wasn't any lesser as well, so he was able to match up against Fatty Wang. Indeed, after Yuan Zheyu walked in, he didn't bother with talking as he struck out towards Fatty Wang. Fatty Wang originally was sneering, "Heh, another one coming to deliver his death. Since you don't want your life, then you shall allow this Sir Fatty to loosen your skin." However, he had just finished his words when Yuan Zheyu's profound skill was already right in front of his face. The speed was so fast that it surpassed his expectations. What? Fatty Wang sucked in a mouthful of cold air as he reacted to evade it, but it was too late. His ability was originally weaker than Yuan Zheyu, plus the fact that he had underestimated his opponent, it gave the opponent an opportunity. Fatty Wang was struck heavily by that strike as he instantly retreated several steps, as blood started to trickle out of the corner of his mouth. Great. Senior brother Yuan is really too powerful. Show that Fatty some colors. That's right, damn Fatty, who asked you to look down on Celestial Light Academy? Just wait for senior brother Yuan to beat you into a pancake. Senior brother Yuan, we're cheering for you. The crowd started to get excited, and started to encourage and cheer for Yuan Zheyu. But Huang Yueli realized that something wasn't right, as her brows creased slightly. You can also listen on. After Fatty Wang was injured by Yuan Zheyu, he wiped off the traces of blood on his lips hard, as he got so infuriated that his fats started to shake. Fatty Wang, although wasn't powerful and his cultivation isn't high, but just based on the fact that he was a distant relative of Elder Wang, he was considered to be the chief among the outer disciple. Along with these lackeys beside him, he went around bullying those outer disciples with no background, especially those newcomers who joined yearly, which of them had not been repeatedly squeezed and exploited till they were left with only their trousers. Today he heard that a new bunch of outer disciples came in, so Fatty Wang happily rushed over with his lackeys, thinking to earn a fortune from these newcomers, as well as to show off his might. After all, with his cultivation and power, he could only put up a false pretense in front of those newly joined outer disciples. In the end, just as he was gleeful, he had been struck with a pole and viciously slapped on the face. Fatty Wang's embarrassment turned into anger, as his face flushed red and pointing at Yuan Zheyu, he said maliciously, "You fellow, don't be too delightful, things are not done yet. Sir Fatty, I haven't displayed all of my power. I advise you to kneel down on the ground and kowtow to me to apologize, otherwise, I'll show you some colors later." Obviously Yuan Zheyu didn't bother about his nonsensical words, as he used a neither servile nor overbearing tone to reply, "I have obviously won. Why do I need to kowtow and apologize? Senior brother Wang better leave here quickly, in case we really get into a real fight later on, then both of us will incur losses. You dare to treat this Sir Fatty words like air." Fatty Wang's anger arose, and he was unable to tolerate the raging fire in his chest as he simply lashed out. His right hand rose up, and a gold light flashed past. Following that, a large Iron Claw Silver Wolf appeared in front of everyone. The Iron Claw Silver Wolf was a 4th-tier magical beast, and furthermore it was famous for its powerful attack and speed. This kind of magical beast, although wasn't rare, but was extremely difficult to capture alive, so there were few people who were able to contact an Iron Claw Silver Wolf. This Fatty Wang was merely a 3rd-stage realm peak practitioner, but managed to successfully contract an Iron Claw Silver Wolf. Furthermore, this Wilver Wolf's fur was silvery bright, its physique was healthy and beautiful, so it should be an extremely well-built matured silver wolf. The minute this silver wolf appeared, all the newcomers present shut their mouths up, not daring to say a single word. Even Yuan Ziyu's expression turned pale. If it was merely Fatty's own power, he naturally didn't thought that he would lose to him, but if including this silver wolf, Yuan Ziyu practically had no chances of victory. Because this silver wolf itself was already 4th tier, its level had already surpassed his, plus magical beasts' battle power were usually higher than practitioners by an entire realm, so this silver wolf was equivalent to a 5th stage realm top expert. Yuan Ziyu wasn't a heaven-grade genius like Huang Yueli, so how would he get the ability to stride over 2 large realms to battle? This kind of matter, he didn't even dare to think about it. Seeing Yuan Ziyu's terror-stricken expression, Fatty Wang finally felt that he got his face back, so that complacency was written on his face, which didn't require any telling at all, especially when those lackeys by Fatty Wang's side, who kept fawning on him. "PF, you bunch of penniless imbeciles from the academy, haven't seen any high-leveled magical beasts. Only our brilliant and awesome senior brother Wang here has the ability to get the sect's top experts to contract a 4th-tier magical beast to become his spiritual pet. Isn't that so? People just cannot be compared. Those originally lower-class people dare to not give senior brother Wang face? Still not going to kneel and kowtow? Otherwise, the Iron Claw Silver Wolf won't know how to give anyone face. If it accidentally bit you to death alive, then it's just your bad luck. You can also listen on." As the lackeys started to add in their opinions by adding bits and pieces, the expression on Fatty Wang's face was super undulated. Whereas Yuan Ziyu's expression grew uglier by the minute. Of course he didn't want to kowtow to a scum like Fatty Wang, but, facing such a huge ferocious magical beast, there was no possibility of resistance completely. As magical beasts were not like humans, the minute their rage arose, it was possible it would cause him to be crippled for life, and that to practitioners was a serious damage which would affect their cultivation. "How? Still not going to kneel down?" Fatty Wang sneered, as he waved his hand. Iron Claw Silver Wolf slowly inched in towards Yuan Ziyu, as though it only required a command from Fatty Wang for it to pounce upwards to tear him apart. Those freshmen present were all shocked out of their souls, and didn't dare to stand too near Yuan Ziyu. Some of them had even started to slip secretly back into their rooms to pack their luggage, preparing to scram from this courtyard, in case they suffered more humiliation from Fatty Wang. Yuan Ziyu's jaw locked tightly, as he clenched his teeth, not saying a single word. Although his feet were starting to tremble, but the thought of having to kneel in front of such a scum like Fatty Wang made him unable to do so at all. Fatty Wang gave a sardonic smile as he said, "Looks like you've hardened your heart, and planning on having a taste of being bitten by the silver wolf. This Sir Fatty shall grant your wish." The minute his words ended, he swiftly waved his hand and the Iron Claw Silver Wolf leapt up instantaneously, leaping high up into the sky, charging towards Yuan Ziyu's face. Yuan Ziyu withdrew himself and tried to hide, but the Iron Claw Silver Wolf's speed was extremely fast. The silvery shadow was like a bolt of lightning. He totally had no way to evade it and could only shut his eyes tightly, waiting for the pain of being torn to shreds. But the pain which he was expecting did not descended on him. He only heard a soft Z noise when the Iron Claw Silver Wold suddenly gave a bitter howl as it fell from the sky, and rolled about on the ground. Yuan Ziyu could tell that something was not right as he blankly opened his eyes. The scene which entered his wide eyes had him thought that he was still dreaming. All the others present were also shocked, and it took quite a while for them to regain their senses. Heavens, what happened earlier? Why did that silver wolf suddenly fall down? Did senior brother Yuan injure it? Not right, I feel it's impossible. Earlier senior brother Yuan had already shut his eyes waiting for his death. How could he suddenly turn defeat into victory? What is this situation? Could it be that someone saved senior brother Yuan? This isn't possible. The few of us, our potential just cannot be compared to senior brother Yuan, so where would the expert come from, and how can we even possibly save him? Amidst the crowd's discussions, Fatty Wang pounced towards the Iron Claw Silver Wolf's side and spent quite an amount of effort to make its struggles become less intense, before flipping its rear leg's fur, to discover a sharp dagger stabbed onto its right rear leg. That dagger was extremely thin, but exceptional sharp. When placed against the sunlight, it was almost transparent, so that was why no one had noticed this dagger, and could only see the silver wolf falling down. Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang looked towards Huang Yueli at the same time, with a shocked and revered look. Huang Yueli had constructed plenty of such daggers, and he had seen them several times. Needless to say, the person who struck earlier was definitely her. Only, the two of them had been standing beside her, and had not noticed, when and how had she actually made the move. You can also listen on. This meant that Huang Yueli's ability, compared to when she was in Celestial Light Academy, she had improved yet again. Such a perfected technique of using the concealed weapon. What level was her current cultivation and ability right now? The two of them were unable to guess the answer, and in their hearts the reverence towards this sweet-looking third miss had increased. Don't think that her outer appearance was so gentle, but only those who understood her would know that her gentle appearance laid hidden an extremely powerful peerless expert. Fatty Wang tightened his hand's round dagger as his hand started to tremble. He had been fooling around in Celestial Light Sect for his entire time, and he knew good stuff when he saw it. The dagger right before his eyes was obviously a 5th grade and above profound artifact. Even among those inner disciples in Celestial Light Sect, not everyone were able to afford this. Could it be that the one who saved Yuan Ziyu was actually an inner disciple, or perhaps even a direct disciple? How was that possible? These people had just arrived, so how was it possible for them to know any upper management people within the sect? But, if that was not the case, why would the other part be willing to casually throw out such an expensive 5th grade profound artifact? Further, the speed of the strike was so fast that it was never heard of, and it could even match the silver wolf's moving speed, pinpointing the attack accurately on its rear leg's meridian. Such powerful potential, how could it possibly be anyone ordinary? The more Fatty Wang thought, the more frightened he was. Don't think that he was usually so arrogant, but he could only relied on his status as Elder Wang's distant relative to swindle people only. There was no one among the outer disciples who knew his background. In actual fact, he had not even met Elder Wang before, and Elder Wang probably don't even knew who he was, so how would he possibly give him preferential treatment? If today, there really was a direct disciple who couldn't stand his ways, and even made a move to teach his silver wolf a lesson, then he really had no possibility of resistance at all. Fatty Wang's legs softened into a heap as he knelt onto the ground and furiously kowtowed. His mouth started spurting out repentance on all the evil deeds that he had done. May I know which senior brother or senior uncle had made the move? This disciple knows I'm done wrong. Please do not punish me. I will not bully any freshmen in future and will absolutely change my evil ways for the better, please. Will senior please let me off? The action of Fatty Wang suddenly kowtowing in mid-air made the surrounding crowd went into a daze. But Fatty Wang's lackeys immediately reacted and started kowtowing behind him. As for the new disciples, their reactions were slightly retarded, and it took some time for them to realize that it should be some powerful existence within Celestial Light Sect who lent a helping hand in secret, thus saving Yuan Ziyu. As for Fatty Wang, who only knew how to bully the weak and feared the strong, even though that mysterious expert hadn't revealed himself, but this had already scared him out of his wit. Haha, isn't Fatty Wang a little too laughable? Earlier, isn't he still trying to force senior brother Yuan to kowtow, and now? Why is he kneeling on the ground himself, kowtowing non-stop? Isn't that so? Looks like you can anyhow eat, but you can't talk anyhow. Earlier he said to kowtow, and now he's kowtowing himself. This is called retribution. Everyone was rejoicing over his misfortune. Fatty Wang was so angry that he was going insane, but unfortunately he was apprehensive about the senior top expert who had not revealed himself, so he didn't dare to act up immediately. But in his heart, he kept cursing non-stop. Just you all wait, today the top expert happened to pass by, so I'll just let you all off for the moment, but after today, I will definitely made you repay this back double-fold. Fatty Wang's malicious expression naturally had not escaped Huang Yueli's eyes. You can also listen on. If it was usual times, she would definitely have stood out to teach him an unforgettable lesson. If he wasn't convinced, she would continue beating him, all the way until he's convinced. If he still wasn't, then just send him off the heavens. But today her heart was filled with Li Moying's matters, so considering the benefits and losses, she chose not to reveal herself. Anyway, this fatty Wang would not dare to take any action for the next few days, and she didn't need to reveal her own identity. This was the best outcome of having the best of both worlds. If there was anything else, wait till she had settled with Li Moying first. Huang Yueli was thinking in this way, and she silently retreated a few steps as she prepared to leave. This farce was already at the ending point, and she no longer had any interest to continue watching. But just at the instance when she turned around, the iron claw silver wolf, which was continuously howling on the ground, suddenly leapt upwards. Little Silver. Even Fatty Wang had a shock from its reaction. The iron claw silver wolf's sharp like iron claws dug onto the ground for a few times before it rose its neck and gave a horrendous wolf howl. After which it swiftly leapt up and charged towards Huang Yueli's back. Heavens! Be careful! No! Waves of shocking shrieks and air being sucked in was heard. When Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang saw that, they wanted to pull Huang Yueli aside. But their reactions were not quick enough. On the other hand, the silver wolf's speed was shockingly fast. It only took a blink of an eye as it had already pounced towards the front, its sharp large claws stretched outwards, as it started to claw towards Huang Yueli's back. All of them held their breaths. They were so anxious as their entire bodies started trembling. There was nothing to obstruct the silver wolf's claw, as it ferociously clawed downwards. Sister Li. Su Qingyu covered her eyes, not daring to take a further look. But immediately following that, Yu Xinyang, who was standing beside her, gave an astonished gasp. Huh? Su Qingyu opened her eyes, and saw a silver light flashed in front of her eye. The silver wolf's claw actually struck nothing, whereas Huang Yueli's original position had already been left empty, without a trace of anyone at all. Before anyone could react, Huang Yueli's figure had already appeared behind the silver wolf's back. Her right hand struck out lightly, and a sword pierced right into the middle of the wolf's back. A loud bang was heard, and before the silver wolf could even howl out, it crashed heavily onto the ground, as it was killed in just one strike. For a moment, no one made any sound in the entire courtyard. Everyone just stared blankly at the spot which Huang Yueli was standing at, and the silver wolf's carcass which was laid beside her feet, as they all bore a dumbstruck expression on their faces. Everyone felt that they must have developed hallucination. What was this situation? How was it possible for such a thing to happen? This was a powerful matured iron claw silver wolf, a 4th-tier magical beast, which was equivalent to a 5th-stage realm practitioner. Earlier, even Celestial Light Academy's #1 expert, Yuan Ziyu, was totally immovable under the threat of the iron claw silver wolf, as he obediently waited to become the sacrificial victim for the wolf. But, now, that powerful, mighty and undefeatable iron claw silver wolf actually was killed in just one strike from an extremely normal-looking lady. Did it need to be that ridiculous? But the truth laid in front of their eyes. After a while, Fatty Wang was the first to regain his senses, as he immediately started screeching loudly, my silver wolf, tilde 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 tilde. This is my iron claw silver wolf, which I've thought of many ways, spent so much money and even begged so many elders in the family before I managed to successfully contract it tilde 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 tilde. He raced over and plopped right onto his silver wolf's body. Get up, don't keep lying down, quickly get up. Don't pretend to be dead. You can also listen on. Fatty Wang was determined not to believe that his iron claw silver wolf had died, and tried his hardest to shake its body, thinking that it was faking its death. He simply cannot accept this truth. As he usually rode roughshod over the outer disciples, other than relying on Elder Wang's reputation, he still required a little bit of real ability. But as his own cultivation couldn't made it, just based on his own ability, sometimes he wasn't even able to match up against those freshmen, like Yuan Ziyu, who had just joined the sect, so in order to be able to hold up the situation, he could only rely on this iron claw silver wolf. If he didn't have this wolf, then in future how was he going to maintain his prestige? How could he made those outer disciples who he had bullied into listening to his commands obediently, and not sought revenge? The more Fatty Wang thought, the more his heart was incinerating. But, no matter how much he shook, Silver Wolf just didn't budge an inch. In fact, its body temperature was gradually turning colder. Fatty Wang then screeched out, "Impossible. You wretched lass, you slut, You actually killed my silver wolf. I'm going to fight it out with you. He turned around and saw Huang Yueli with her arms crossed, as she stood behind him, and abruptly pounced towards her. Ah! Be careful. Junior Sister Yi, be careful. Amidst the crowd's shrilling voices, Huang Yueli was calm and unhurried. Just based on Fatty Wang's bit of ability, if it was before she had entered the inheritance tower, she still had to deal with him carefully, but now in her eyes, he seemed to be like a young boy dancing around, totally not posing any threats to her. She waved casually and a burst of fire attributed profound energy was unleashed, as it crashed onto Fatty Wang's tummy in midair. Fatty Wang was originally rushing forward wildly, but had been dismissed by a simple move, as he instantly flew the opposite direction. He totally seemed to be like a broken kite. Fatty Wang flew in the air for a while before crashing onto the courtyard's other end of the wall, smashing the entire wall to smithereens. When the wall crashed, it gave out a loud boom sound. All the birds which built their nests on those surrounding big trees all flew away in shock, chirping as they started to fly round in circles above Fatty Wang's head. Everyone were dumbfounded, and by the time they regained their senses, they dashed towards the rear courtyard, to see Fatty Wang's miserable condition. Before they could close in, from far, a strange fragrance entered their nostrils. What smell is that? Strange, why does it smell like barbecued meat? Everyone looked at one another in dismay. By the time they reached Fatty Wang, everyone discovered that the ball of fire which Huang Yueli casually tossed, had lit up Fatty Wang's body. Furthermore, probably because he was too fat, and the amount of oil on his body was a lot, that bundle of fire grew larger and larger, totally unstoppable, as it emitted wafts of tempting barbecued smell. Some others even made a gulping sound, as they swallowed their saliva. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation was too strange, probably a lot of them were already rolling themselves on the ground from laughter. Although Fatty Wang was in this state, which was very satisfying to appease their anger, but this place was after all still within the sect, and if anyone was found murdering another in the sect, the situation would become severe. Those present would be driven out of the sect, and possibly even sent to the water prison. So after everyone surrounded Fatty Wang to take a look, they started to put out the fire on him. Some water-attributed practitioners surrounded Fatty Wang and utilized their powers before they finally managed to extinguish the fire on him. This attributed to Huang Yueli being merciful as well, that she didn't use her deviant flames, otherwise Fatty Wang would really be turned into barbecued meat. Just sprinkle some salt over him and he could be served right on the dining table. You can also listen on. But even so, Fatty Wang cut an extremely sorry state right now. Most of his skin were burnt, revealing a charred black color, and some places even exposed his bones, blood, and flesh. Huang Yueli was the last to arrive, and on seeing this, she was extremely speechless as well. To tell the truth, she only wanted to teach Fatty Wang a small lesson, just breaking a few of his bones would do. She had not expected Fatty Wang to be so fat. Once he was burnt, his oil kept dripping, and subsequently the fire could not be stopped. It was such a tragedy. But she wasn't a saint, so no matter how miserable Fatty Wang was, it was something which he deserved. So, Huang Yueli merely expressed her sympathy emblematically and was preparing to leave. But at this moment, Fatty Wang finally regained consciousness. The minute he opened his eyes, he felt his entire body in extreme pain, and when he lowered his head to take a look, he almost lost his consciousness again. He turned his head and saw Huang Yueli, who stood in the corner, who was preparing to leave. Immediately, a burst of anger lifted to his chest and he couldn't swallow it at all. Fatty Wang expended all the energy in his body, before he managed to lift out his finger, as he pointed his trembling finger towards Huang Yueli. You. Just, wait. Sir. Fatty I is not finished with you. Huang Yueli blinked as she laughed out uncontrollably and said with ridicule, I say, stupid Fatty, are you a joker? Just based on you, how are you going to show me any colors? You'd better control yourself properly. Fatty Wang's lackeys had already hurried over and stayed by his side, as they started standing up retorting in anger, helping Fatty Wang accused her, you still have the cheek to laugh. How could there be such a malicious woman like you in this world, to use such a cruel way to hurt your own people from the same master? If this was heard by Elder Wang, Just wait to be torn into pieces. Huang Yueli's smile totally could not be stopped. Alright, stop creating a comedy, let's not talk about whether this Mr. Wang has the ability to contact Elder Wang. Even if you had the ability, what can you do to me? I was purely defending myself. Everyone present had seen that it was your Iron Claw Silver Wolf which pounced over to bite me first, so I'm acting in self-defense by stabbing it once. In the end your embarrassment turned into anger and tried to kill so surely I cannot just sit there and wait to die, right? How would I know that I merely struck out in defense lightly, and caused you to be injured to such a state? This fat senior brother, I'm really sorry for that. Although she said sorry for that, but anyone could tell that her apology wasn't sincere at all, but was merely fleeting words of ridicule. Moreover, the more infuriating part was, she kept emphasizing that she was acting in self-defense. This was simply slapping Fatty Wang on his face alive. Earlier when Fatty Wang hit the freshman, he kept emphasizing that it was the freshman who struck against him first, so he was only defending himself. Now Huang Yueli took the same words and threw it back onto his face. Furthermore, what Huang Yueli said was absolutely correct. Earlier she indeed was only acting in self-defense. No matter if it was stabbing the Iron Claw Silver Wolf with just one pierce, or burning Fatty Wang with just one move, she wasn't the one who took action first. She was only defending herself, and lightly making one move only. Just only one move. But why was there such a dire consequence later on? Anyone just needed to think through it. That was because Fatty Wang was just too weak. You can also listen on. Fatty Wang was humiliated completely and he couldn't hang on much further as his vision turned black and he fell onto the ground, fainting once again. That bunch of lackeys hurriedly ran over and holding his fat figure up, they turned around and left, not daring to say another word more. What joke was that? Such a terrifying fourth-tier magical beast Iron Claw Silver Wolf, and it had been killed with just a single strike from the weak lady's sword. The cultivation levels from the few of them couldn't even match up Fatty Wang, and now they're jumping out to challenge her. Wasn't that equivalent to looking for their own deaths? They remembered to carry Fatty Wang away and that was already considered sentimental enough. After Fatty Wang left, everyone's gazes towards Huang Yueli were filled with terror, astonishment, and reverence. As she was playing Yi Xiao's identity, Yi Xiao's character was usually very introvert. She belonged to those kind whose face would flushed red when talking. Although Yi Xiao's innate talent wasn't bad, and her cultivation level wasn't too low, but due to her character, it caused her actual combat side to be lacking. But today, she had actually shown such resoluteness when she struck, not leaving any room to maneuver, using just one move to defeat the opponent. This kind of thing had never happened on Yi Xiao before. Huang Yueli saw the crowd closing in, and silently felt a little vexed. It was all that damn Fatty's fault, and his overly sensitive smelling silver wolf. The reason why that silver wolf suddenly pounced over to bite her was obviously because it had smelt the remnant smell from that dagger, realizing that she was the main culprit who attacked it, so it came over to exact revenge. Whereas Huang Yueli had reacted naturally under a critical situation, as she subconsciously did her killer move which claimed its life. In the end, her thoughts of continuing to become an invisible woman in the sect, after bearing for an entire morning, was exposed just like that. She hadn't even lasted for an entire day. And now she became yet another legendary figure. Looked like in her life, the two phrases ordinary and low-key were not in her dictionary. But even though she had behaved so strangely, Huang Yueli still didn't want to say out her own identity, so she could only take the strategy of not admitting. A bunch of freshman disciples crowded around her, asking her various questions. Junior Sister Yi, when did you become so powerful? You actually managed to defeat the fourth-tier magical beast in just one move. That's right, the last time you had a battle with me, you were still very nervous and could not even hold up your sword stability. How many months has it been since, and you suddenly made such a huge improvement from then? Junior Sister Yi, have you been taken in as disciple by some hidden expert? Quick, point me a clear route. Facing everyone's inquiries, Huang Yueli only gave a false smile. My potential have been raised. That's right, the last time I was in a hurry to cultivate, so I went into chi deviation. When my internal injury recuperated, my cultivation suddenly increased, so I didn't thought much of it. How did I defeat the magical beast? This. I was too shocked then and totally don't know what I was doing. There was a thought that flashed across my mind, and that was I couldn't die. By the time I regained my consciousness, that silver wolf was already dead. Ah. Quickly tell me, what on earth have I done? Everyone had on a dull expression when she countered them with the questions. On seeing everyone in a daze, Huang Yueli took the opportunity to put oil on her feet as she slipped away. That speed was so fast that no one had any way to stop her. The new disciples were not familiar with Yi Xiao, and because Huang Yueli's disguise was extremely well done, her imitation was perfect. So most of them had not thought that anyone would assume her identity. You can also listen on. On the contrary, it was Yuan Zhayu whose gaze deepened as he looked thoughtfully at Huang Yueli's departing figure. Huang Yueli couldn't be bothered to care about what others thought. Anyway, Li Moying was going to go back soon, so as long as she could last till then, that would do. So, her main energy was left on researching on how to meet Li Moying as she specially formulated several plans. Su Qingyu appeared rather worried, although that fatty Wang doesn't seem like he knows Elder Wang, but I heard that he was Administrator Chen's nephew. Now that we're under Administrator Chen's charge, I wonder if this matter was spread to his ears, would he find trouble with you on behalf of fatty Wang? Yu Xinyang, however, seemed very excited. What's there to be afraid of? Third Miss has such strong ability, even if that Administrator Chen dared to, she could send him flying with one slap. Huang Yueli merely smiled when she heard what he said, as she didn't reply nor placed any concern on this matter. That night, in Administrator Chen's courtyard, fatty Wang was hugging his thigh, as he sobbed, a pool of tears and mucus dripping, looking extremely miserable. Uncle. I'm ruined this time round. My silver wolf was killed and I've been burnt into this state. You must help me get back at her. Administrator Chen looked at his charred face and had a huge fright. What happened to you? Who injured you to this state? Have you offended any elder's direct disciples? Haven't I told you this many times? Just that little bit of ability, you can only mingle around among the outer disciples. Don't go around ruffling up the inner and direct disciples. They would not even be the least bit scared of me, neither would they believe that you are Elder Wang's relative. Fatty Wang hurriedly explained, Uncle, I've really listened to you and not go around creating trouble. The person who beat me up this time is an outer disciple. What? How is that possible? Didn't you said that your Iron Claw Silver Wolf has been killed? 4 outer disciples to injure you. That's possible, but to kill your 4th-tier Iron Claw Silver Wolf? How could that be possible? Administrator Chen said in astonishment. Fatty Wang raised his hands up to vouch, as he explained further, Uncle, I really am not lying to you. The person who injured me, if the newly advanced outer disciple who just reported 2 days ago, I heard she's one of them who passed Celestial Light Academy's ranking examinations to join the sect. What? Celestial Light Academy? Administrator Chen frowned as he tried to recall, but still felt incredulous. Not possible, right? I've taken a look at the name list of those who came from Celestial Light Academy, and among them, only Yuan Zhayu is slightly more powerful. Is he the one who injured you? Then that would be difficult to settle. I heard that the Yuan family had an elder in the sect too. Fatty Wang shook his head. No, not him. It's a 16 or 17-year-old lady. I've specially sent someone over to check on her. She's called Yi Xiao and her family background is very ordinary, but she's a 6th grade talent. Administrator Chen responded. Yi Xiao? The one who was late because she went into Qi deviation? Seems to have some impression of her. Fatty Wang immediately replied, Uncle, you must help me. I cannot be beaten up by someone for nothing, and my silver wolf cannot die for nothing. Otherwise other people would think that, Uncle, your words are not of use at all. I've checked very clearly that Yi Xiao's family has no background, so dealing with her would definitely not cause any problems. He was sure that he only needed to open his mouth to ask, and Administrator Chen would immediately agree to it. You can also listen on. This uncle of his had always doted on him. If it hadn't been for Administrator Chen's protection, a scum like Fatty Wang would have long been killed by those seeking revenge on him, so how would he be able to stay so lively until today? But this time, Administrator Chen didn't nod in agreement immediately. but revealed a difficult expression. This, if you only need to give her a light punishment, that's no problem, but if you want that lass life or come out with any large actions, then this probably would be tough. Fatty Wang was injury-ridden, was in extreme pain, but he still endured all of that to fawn on Administrator Chen. All that was just because he wanted him to help get back at her. Even in his dreams, he wanted Huang Yueli to die immediately. In the end, Administrator Chen only gave him this reply, and that made Fatty Wang so infuriated that he almost jumped up. "Why? Uncle? Aren't you my biological uncle? That wretched lass killed my silver wolf. How much money my family had spent in order to get me that wolf. You know that, Bess. Even I almost died in her hands. And you're not going to help me at all?" He wailed, and as he cried, he acted shamelessly, almost to the point of dropping to the ground and rolled about. Administrator Chen was helpless as he hurriedly replied, "Sigh, this child, why are you so anxious? Have I said that I won't help? But I have my own difficulty as well." "What difficulty? Why don't you rack your brains and think? Today, if you're the one who injured Yi Xiao, I can help you torture her to death, but now she killed your silver wolf and it was right in front of so many people's eyes, killing it with one strike. What did that mean? It means that her actual combat ability is at least 5th stage realm and above. She's only 16, and with such ability, it already spelt clearly that she's an exceptional talent." When Fatty Wang heard that, he suddenly thought of other crucial points, and instantly, as though struck by lightning, his entire body turned icy cold. Administrator Chen continued, "So with her innate talent, to become an inner disciple, or even a direct disciple, it would be a matter-of-fact thing. Furthermore, your battle was done openly, so many people had seen it. It would probably not take a few days' time before this reaches the sect master or elder's ears. Now that our sect and West Sky Region's sect is on bad terms, we are now eagerly seeking after men of worth and ability, and hearing about such a moldable character, would they not immediately come and take them under their wing? But, what should we do then? Don't tell me we really can't do anything to her." Administrator Chen sighed and said, "Not that there's no other way, but we need to plan a strategy in advance. You should have heard about this too. Young sect master will be returning to the sect on the day after, and all of us administrators will need to go and receive him. Right now, young sect master is the most important person in the sect, and moreover, hadn't he been staying in Celestial Light sect for a period of time earlier? Perhaps by then he might want to meet up with those people whom he knows, so if we intend to deal with that lass, we must at least wait till young sect master leaves." Fatty Wang was so anxious that he stomped his feet. Wait. When must we wait until? Just like what uncle you said, if the time drags on any longer and that wretched lass is being discovered by some elder and becomes a direct disciple, then we will have no way of dealing with her. We can't even harm one hair of hers by then. That's true too. Administrator Chen felt that he had some logic to his saying, and started to feel perplexed, as he frowned and entered into deep thoughts. After some time, his eyes lit up and he straightened his spine. "I've got it." Fatty Wang hurriedly asked, "Got what?" "Uncle, what idea have you thought of?" You can also listen on. Administrator Chen revealed a smile as he continued, "I've thought of an idea. That is to borrow someone's knife to kill another." "Borrow someone's knife to kill another? Borrow whose knife?" Fatty Wang was still puzzled. Administrator Chen replied, "Of course it's to borrow young sect master's knife." Fatty Wang curiously said, "Young sect master? But, we don't know young sect master. How would he possibly help us? Will he even help us kill someone?" Administrator Chen frowned, as he stared at Fatty Wang in a resentful look which meant that he failed to live up to his expectations. Since young you've been brainless, and even though you're so old now, why aren't you using your brains to think? Young sect master naturally won't help us for no reason, so we must create a reason for him to kill Yi Xiao." Fatty Wang was being scolded, but he wasn't angry at all. He only needed to think of sending that wretched lass who killed his silver wolf. His entire body's blood started to boil. Yes, uncle, please continue, I'm listening." He hurriedly poured a cup of tea for Administrator Chen as he delivered it respectfully into his hands. Administrator Chen was satisfied with that as he continued, "The matter is very simple. Young sect master had been outside dealing with some matters recently, and I heard that it was not smooth sailing, so he's been throwing his temper every day. No one dared to get into his bad books as their consequences would be miserable. I heard that even his closest protector Mo Yi had been locked up in the water jail. Fatty Wang screamed in astonishment. Even Protector Mo had been locked into the water jail? Why is that so? What trouble have young sect master met with outside? Administrator Chen glowered at him. Who knows? Anyway, it is none of our concern. What's important MPW is that young sect master's temper is very bad now, and it just needs one ignition for it to light up. So, as long as that Yi lass clashes onto him, that wretched lass would definitely die a horrendous death. Furthermore, she died in young sect master's hands, which is entirely justified, so no matter how outstanding of a talent she is, no one would pursue young sect master's responsibility, right? This way, they also won't find out that we're the ones masterminding this concert too. Right. Uncle, you're absolutely right. But, what should we do to ensure that the Yi girl will definitely ruffle up young sect master? Administrator Chen replied, we only need to make some slight arrangements will do. You also know that all newly advanced outer disciples will be arranged to do some kind of factotum. Moreover, this matter is entirely handled by me. If they won't accept it, then they would not be able to obtain contribution points, and cannot cultivate. So, tomorrow, I just need to arrange Yi Xiao to be responsible for tidying up young sect master's courtyard. Ah? Fatty Wang jumped up when he heard that. Uncle, have you gone silly? What kind of scheme is that? Isn't this a beautiful job? Young sect master's courtyard seldom has anyone living in it, so it's especially clean and doesn't require much effort in cleaning. Furthermore, I heard that those outer disciples who were responsible for cleaning in the past would receive pointers from the shadow guards, and later on some of them became inner disciple. Such beautiful task, outer disciples are all fighting for it, even I am not in turn for it. Administrator Chen gave another disapproving look which berated him for not living up to his expectations, as he pointed out a finger and poked Fatty Wang's head. You, can you stop being so short-sighted? You also said that was in the past. Now young sect master's temper is really irritable. Furthermore, I heard others say that young sect master had a room in his courtyard that absolutely was out of bounds to anyone. Whoever accidentally intruded in that room will be executed on the spot. We don't need to tell that to the wretched lass will do. Young sect master will be back on the day after, so if he sees his secret room being touched, you can also listen on. When Fatty Wang heard that, no matter how stupid he was, he also came around it as joy filled his eyes. Yes, if young sect master were to see anyone entering his room which he disallowed from entering, being intruded by an outer disciple who was tasked to clean up, then he would absolutely fly into a ray. Yi Xiao absolutely would be chopped into two parts by young sect master. The more Fatty Wang thought, the more exquisite he thought the plan was, as he kept prancing about in the room, as he began to rain all sorts of praises onto Administrator Chen. Uncle, you're just too smart. This borrowing knife scheme is simply perfect. This time Yi Xiao is a goner. No matter how much innate talent she has, but in front of young sect master, no one is able to withstand a single blow at all. She's definitely dead, she's definitely a goner. Wretched slut, who asked you to ruffle with this Sir Fatty? This time round, just go to Hades and cry, ha. On the second morning, Huang Yueli got up rather early. The night earlier, she had already gotten notification to report to Administrator Chen's courtyard as he was going to officially arrange all sorts of factotum for the outer disciples today. Huang Yueli took her breakfast and headed off together with Su Qingyu and Yu Xinyang. When they walked to the courtyard, a few other newly advanced disciples from Celestial Light Academy were also preparing to set off, and when they saw Huang Yueli, all of them started to head over to greet her. Junior Sister Yi, have you rested well yesterday? Junior Sister Yi, it was all thanks to you yesterday, at least we don't need to be chased out. That's right, Junior Sister Yi, at least we don't need to kowtow to anyone, and that's already the biggest advantage. As for other disadvantageous parts, we just need to bear with it. Anyway, they don't dare to go overboard. After the conventional greetings, someone patted Huang Yueli's shoulder as she gave advice with a deep expression. Huang Yueli was totally puzzled when she heard that and asked curiously, "What do you mean by other disadvantageous parts? What did that mean? How come I don't understand you at all?" The person who said the only female student in the martial arts stage top 10, Su Jiasheng. Junior Sister Yi, we also got to know about this yesterday. That Fatty Wang yesterday was not only the grandnephew of Elder Wang, he is also the nephew of Administrator Chen. Administrator Chen is responsible for managing us, and the factotum which we will be arranged to do from now on, will all be arranged by him personally. Huang Yueli blinked. I really couldn't tell that. Fatty Wang indeed has some backing. Su Jiasheng continued, isn't that so? So, yesterday night, Fatty Wang had already sent someone over to scare us, saying that Administrator Chen wouldn't sit and do nothing about our evil deeds. So today when arranging the factotums, he will definitely show us some colors. When Huang Yueli heard that, she frowned. This fellow, is there an end to this? Simply looking for death, or must I go and punch him one more round? Although she really wasn't willing to deal with rubbish like Fatty Wang, because this was simply too degrading, but, even if it was one unremarkable mosquito which kept buzzing by her ears daily, that was also very irritating, all right? It was so irritating that it really made someone wanted to slap it to death. When Su Jiacheng heard that, she immediately became anxious and hurriedly persuaded, Sai, Junior Sister Yi, you usually look like a prudent person, but ever since you entered Qi Deviation, why have you become so rash? Don't be rash to look for Fatty Wang, do you hear me? Huang Yueli went into a blank. Why say that? Surely you all don't want to be allocated some disgusting factotum, right? You can also listen on. Su Jiasheng added, of course we don't wish to, but you've already taken such a huge risk on our behalf, hurting Fatty Wang seriously, so I'm sure Administrator Chen and him definitely hates you to the core. If you were to go find trouble with them, won't you be walking right into their trap? Nothing should happen to you now, and you cannot let them have any chance to trap you. Huang Yueli asked hesitantly, but, you all, Su Jiasheng immediately cut her off, there's nothing much for us to. Isn't it just slightly tougher factotum? Actually the type of factotum is standardized, so no matter how overboard Administrator Chen goes, he will not be able to make us each a *T, merely just giving away the nicer tasks to others and let us work harder only. These are small matters, so we'll just treat it as part of self-training towards our cultivation. Huang Yueli still wanted to say something, but a few of them had already walked towards Administrator Chen's courtyard. Under the attention of others, they didn't dare to say anything much as they quietly lined up and walked in. Administrator Chen's courtyard was already filled with people. The outer discipled who were under the care of Administrator Chen's allocation of factotum was not only limited to the small bunch of those from Celestial Light Academy. There were many other outer disciples who were taken in from elsewhere, and there was a total of 100 over people, which filled the small courtyard fully. Administrator Chen kept everyone waiting for quite some time before he arrived late. He walked to the high stage in the middle of the courtyard as he cleared his throat. Everyone, firstly congratulations to all of you, for passing the various stages of selection and officially entering Celestial Light Sect to become Outer Disciple. Although you're only Outer Disciples, but based on the reputation of Celestial Light Sect as the #1 sect, I believe that in everyone else's eyes, you're already a dragon among the carp. But, the first step after becoming an outer disciple, to have some achievement in the path of cultivation, you cannot afford to slack, and must diligently cultivate. At the same time, you must understand and be grateful to the sect for their nurture, to pledge your loyalty to the sect, and complete the tasks which the sect had arranged for you. As an outer disciple, you actually aren't genuine Celestial Light Sect's disciples yet, and will need to complete factotum for the sect. Remember, the factotums which had been passed to you are all very important and you're not allowed to pick and choose. Whatever you're allocated, you must try your best to complete it. Every time you complete a factotum, you will gain equivalent amount of contribution points, and these are something which could be used to exchange for cultivations methods and resources in future, so you must cherish it. Saying that, Administrator Chen coughed lightly once more. All right, now I'm going to arrange factotum for all of you. Will those disciples whose names are being called, come over to me to retrieve the token for your task? Number 1 Zhong Wei Fang. Your task is, responsible for West Region Storeroom's administration and stock-taking, to listen to the commands from the storeroom administrator. Number 2, next one is, from the start, there were only a few people who weren't from Celestial Light Academy, and the tasks they were allocated were pretty good. If there's not something to gain from it, then it would extremely idle. But very quickly, it was Celestial Light Academy's disciples' turn. Next, Yuan Zheyu. Your task is, in charge of Eastern Zone's inner disciples' sword sparring training grounds and accompany them to train. The minute he said that, it caused waves of shocking gasps among the disciples who were present. Some of them started to discuss in whispers. That Yuan Zheyu, I heard his number 1 in Celestial Light Academy. It's heard that he has a high innate talent and is a moldable talent. Why is he being allocated to such a scamming task? You can also listen on. Right, to accompany them for training, isn't this task a little too terrible? And to accompany inner disciples to train, an outer disciple like him over there, isn't he there just to be a sandbag for them? I think he'd probably be beaten up badly every day, so isn't this a scam or what? But I heard that Fatty Wang went over to extort protection fee from the Celestial Light Academy's courtyard, so make a guess what happened in the end. I heard about it too. It had said that they refused to pay the protection fee and even beat Fatty Wang up. This guts, isn't it a little too fat? Who doesn't know that Fatty Wang is the leader among the outer door, furthermore he's even Administrator Chen's nephew? I've heard that it's not only like that. Someone said that there's a powerful top expert among them and that person killed Fatty Wang's silver wolf. Hearing that, everyone present drew in a mouthful of cold air. There's such a matter happening. No wonder Administrator Chen is treating them in this way. I think this Yuan Zheyu sent over to accompany them for training is not going to be a mere sandbag, his life would probably be in danger. The crowd's glare towards Yuan Zheyu contained some traces of sympathy. What others were discussing about, wouldn't Yuan Zheyu knew it for himself. But if he wanted to continue staying in Celestial Light Sect, then he absolutely cannot refuse such a request. Administrator Chen saw that he didn't said anything and continued to pressure. Yuan Zheyu, why aren't you coming to receive the task token? Are you dissatisfied with the task which I've allocated to you? I'm telling you, Celestial Light Sect is not for you to play here. If you're not willing to do this small thing, and even wanted to pick the fat and juicy jobs but ignore the thin ones, then you might as well scram back to Sky Cloud City. Yuan Zheyu's expression turned even uglier still. In Sky Cloud City, he was held up towards the moon in both hands by the masses, so when had he ever suffered such humiliation before? However, after an intense battle in his heart, he still decided to endure. He came over because he wanted to pursue a higher realm in the cultivation path, and how would such small difficulty possibly defeat him? Yes, this disciple accepts. He received the task token and clenched it tightly, as he turned around to leave. Fatty Wang was hiding in the dark and when he saw his steady footsteps, he sneered in his heart, good that you've accepted the task. By then, he'd find someone to thoroughly entertain this junior brother Yuan, but Yuan Zheyu wasn't his most hated person, so Fatty Wang hid in his corner, not making any moves, waiting to see Huang Yueli get into trouble. Whereas Huang Yueli was actually watching Yuan Zheyu's departing figure, as a gloomy cold glint flashed past her eyes. Fatty Wang and the others indeed didn't knew how to repent, and just did whatever they wanted to. Did they thought Huang Yueli was someone who they could trifle with? They'd better not move the stone to crush it onto their own feet. Following that, the number of people who received the factotum tasks were getting more and more. Among them, all the Celestial Light Academy's disciples had received extremely dangerous and low-return factotums. Anyone with eyes could tell that Administrator Chen was aiming them. Celestial Light Academy's people were rather tough, no one came out to beg for mercy, and had all received the task token without a single grumble as they left. It was the other disciples below the stage who saw this scenario, they all intentionally evaded them, as though they contained some sort of virus on them, afraid of being infected. Right until the end, when there wasn't much people left, Administrator Chen then called out Huang Yueli's name. Next, Yi Xiao. Your task is to tidy up young sect master's residence and all the rooms and courtyard. When this sentence came out, all the crowd present were shocked, thinking that they have heard it wrongly. By the time they could react, the stage below was already bustling. You can also listen on. Earlier, when they heard those Celestial Light Academy's practitioners had their tasks allocated, one of them were unluckier than the other, as the tasks were more scamming than the previous one. Everyone had already guessed that the person who offended Fatty Wang the most was definitely Yi Xiao, who killed his Iron Claw Silver Wolf. The others' allocated tasks were already so lousy, so if it was Yi Xiao's turn, they wondered how miserable would it be. Many of them, after they had received their task tokens, they refused to leave, wanting to hear the answer personally. In the end, waiting for more than half a day, they received such an unexpected result. The task which she received in turn was not some tough task. Not only was it not tough, it was an uncanny beautiful task. Although the task of cleaning up wasn't too high class, but that was to clean up in the young sect master's residence. Who was the young sect master? In Celestial Light Sect, although the position of sect master seemed to be the highest, but to those who understood Celestial Light Sect clearly, Celestial Light Sect's most revered position was not anyone else, but Li Moying. It was only because he was Murongda's disciple and had maintained some sense of respect towards his own master. To be able to stay beside young sect master to do duties, even if it was just a cleaning factotum, that would be considered as another step advancing to the sky, and she was probably going to fly into riches pretty soon. If young sect master took an interest in her, it was even possible to become a direct disciple, and even if she wasn't able to enter young sect master's eye, then she would at least obtain young sect master's shadow guard's pointers, which was also a good thing, since many of them were all direct disciple. Other than this, young sect master was so handsome, even if there wasn't any advantages, just based on the fact that she could look at young sect master from afar, that would be a factotum which numerous female disciples were willing to go ahead and snatch this opportunity. Momentarily, everyone's gazes towards Huang Yueli were mixed with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Especially those female disciples, when they looked at her, their eyes were practically breathing fire. Such a wonderful factotum, when would it be their turn? Hadn't she had a feud with Administrator Chen and Fatty Wang? Why did they arranged such a nice task for her? Who wouldn't want to stay beside young sect master? If they had better luck and young sect master had taken a fancy to them, allowing them to climb onto his bed, then even as a concubine, that would be the most fortunate thing which happened to them. When Huang Yueli herself heard this, she was extremely astonished, as she blinked her watery huge eyes, unable to react instantly. Administrator Chen, your meaning is for me to help Li young sect master clean up his room? A malicious glint flashed past his sinister eyes, but his face held a blossoming smiling expression, as he used his fingers to play around with a few strands of his beard on his lower jaw. Of course, you haven't heard me wrongly. Your factotum is to clean up young sect master's residence. You're a girl and you're meticulous, so I believe that you will definitely be able to do this factotum properly. This is the best task among this batch of factotums. If it wasn't for your outstanding innate talent, with a bright future, I wouldn't allocate this to you at all. Administrator Chen bore a tone which seemed as though he eagerly sought after people of worth and ability. If it was anyone else, they might think that he was really thinking of Huang Yueli's behalf. Don't you underestimate this task. It might be simple, but young sect master's demands are very high. You must maintain a high degree of cleanliness in every single room. Rest assured, as long as you do it well, you will win young sect master's favor. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli listened to Administrator Chen describing the task passionately, as her brow started to furrow. She didn't need to think before she knew that the factotum which Administrator Chen allocated to her definitely has a problem. Perhaps there was some sort of scheming plot involved. Otherwise, even Yuan Zhayu and the rest were arranged such dangerous tasks. Why was she the only one who was given a beautiful task? Not only the others couldn't believed it, she wasn't going to believe it anyway. Only, she didn't know what these people were thinking of. Although Huang Yueli was skeptical, her hands had already stretched out to receive the task token. Thank you, Administrator Chen, for your care. This kind of factotum really isn't found anywhere easily. You really take good care of me. I will work really hard to make sure that young sect master is satisfied. No matter what Administrator Chen was thinking about, this task to her was totally advantageous for her, without a single disadvantage. It was simply like a cake falling right from the sky, dropping onto her head. She was worried about how to meet Li Moying, and in the end, Administrator Chen specially gave her a chance, so that she could get closer to Li Moying openly. Such a good matter, how could she possibly push it away, so she must definitely hurry and grab it. As for what plot Administrator Chen and Fatty Wang were scheming, anyway they didn't pose any threat to them. To her they were just two clowns, so what could they possibly do to her? When she and Li Moying have reunited, then she naturally needn't be afraid of them any further. Huang Yueli was in a good mood, as her face couldn't help but reveal a smile. Administrator Chen watched her leaving with an at-ease look, as he couldn't help but sneered in his heart. This wretched lass indeed hadn't noticed anything wrong, and thought that she had been allocated a beautiful task, even smiling so happily. He, just let her smile since she could, it was just merely for these 2 days. When young sect master returns, she would immediately turn into a corpse. After Huang Yueli left, the remaining outer disciples broke out. Heavens, have I heard wrongly? Administrator Chen actually arranged such an easy and good factotum task for Yi Xiao. Why? Wasn't she supposed to have a feud with Administrator Chen and the rest? Yes, this is too strange. Could it be that we've really misunderstood Administrator Chen? He doesn't set people up intentionally. But how about the earlier few, Yuan Zheyu and the rest? How do you explain theirs? Those accompanying to train jobs are simply too dangerous. Dangerous, it depends on how you read it. Perhaps Administrator Chen just wanted to train them? Otherwise, to help young sect master, Sai, how would such a factotum even be Yi Xiao's turn? The crowd were chattering non-stop, and all of them were envious of Huang Yueli's luck. Fatty Wang was hiding in one corner listening, and he almost wanted to jump out and tell everyone that that little slut was going to be dead soon. Furthermore, this was the consequence of offending him, Fatty Wang, but he recalled Administrator Chen's reminder that before Huang Yueli reported to Li Moying's residence, this matter absolutely cannot be revealed, so Fatty Wang tried his hardest to control his mouth. Just let you continue to be happy for these 2 more days. In the early afternoon, everyone's tasks had all been allocated. According to Celestial Light Sect's regulations, in the late afternoon, everyone will have to report to the respective factotum administrators which they were allocated to. Huang Yueli was extremely excited as she casually ate a little lunch and ran over to report. But unfortunately she had not met the person whom she wanted to meet. Li Moying's housekeeper was originally Mo Chi, but Mo Chi had been chased out to join the search party. You can also listen on. So the person who was currently in charge of handing Li Moying's residence's factotum was an elderly administrator whom Celestial Light Sect had temporarily arranged. This administrator happened to be Elder Wang's relative, so he's considered to be Fatty Wang's great-granduncle. Fatty Wang shoved a huge sum of spirit stones to him, so that he would help to scam Huang Yueli. This sum was really huge. In order for Fatty Wang to seek revenge for his Iron Claw Silver Wolf, he had indeed dug out all his treasures. Administrator Wang was tempted by the large sum of money, and recalling that Fatty Wang was their own relative, plus the matter that he was tasked to do was as easy as lifting a finger, so Administrator only took a moment to consider before agreeing to it. Huang Yueli walked up to Administrator Wang and handed the task token to him, explaining her presence. Administrator Wang opened his dazed eyes as he casted her a sideways glance. I know, you're the new cleaning factotum. This old man will first say the ugly words, although this factotum is a beautiful task, but if you must do it well. Young sect master especially loves a clean environment, and hates things which are disorderly. You must be especially meticulous to ensure that your cleaning doesn't miss any corner. Otherwise, if young sect master were to blame you, no one will be able to help. Have you heard me clearly? He especially emphasized not missing any corner, which implied that Huang Yueli had to enter every single room to clean properly. Huang Yueli felt that his tone was weird, but didn't give it much thought as she just obediently nodded her head. Li Moying's residence, she naturally must clean it properly. Furthermore, that man indeed loved a clean environment, sometimes to the point of being misophobic. But Huang Yueli wasn't afraid of him blaming her, because from her past life, no matter how much that man was dissatisfied, he hadn't dared to say her, and would only start cleaning up by himself, as well as to service eldest Miss Huang. Even when in Celestial Light Academy, when she and Li Moying were cohabiting, it was Li Moying who made the bed, while she was having breakfast by the side. Administrator Wang saw her non-objecting expression as he secretly laughed in his herd. This lady was indeed dumb, to be scammed till this extent, and still not realizing anything, yet showing such an excited look. But, after careful thoughts, that was understandable. After all, she was going to help out young sect master. A female disciple able to stay by young sect master's side, how much rationality could she preserve? That could only be because of young sect master's amazing charm. So many young ladies had already thrown themselves at him, even eldest Miss Murong was no exception. The ordinary young lady in front of him was going to be smitten to confusion. Administrator Wang didn't had any interest in someone who was about to die, so he simply added a few sentences of concern, before letting her off to tidy up Li Moying's courtyard. Huang Yueli took a mop and cleaning cloth, as she lifted a bucket and walked into Li Moying's courtyard. This was the place where the man she liked lived, so she was naturally filled with curiosity, as she kept glancing around. Li Moying's likes in this lifetime seemed not much different from her previous life. The courtyard wasn't very big and from the outside it looked very plain, but the minute one walked in, it was a totally different world. The courtyard was elaborately laid with 7th tier and above upper grade materials, extremely lavish, but Huang Yueli knew that this man's motive wasn't to flaunt his fortune but to ensure that his residence was safe and comfortable, well fortified. Li Moying's residence originally was located at the rear mountain of Celestial Light Sect Gathering Point, and he had set up various 8th tier spirit gathering arrays, so the entire mountain artery's profound qi had continuously flowed and gathered towards his courtyard. You can also listen on. The intensity of the profound qi was at least 3 times as compared to outside. This absolutely was the best feng shui treasured place for going into closed-door cultivation. Not only that, Li Moying's courtyard looked like there wasn't any defense mechanism, as his entrance had a few guards. But in the eyes of a professional high-leveled armament master like Huang Yueli, this courtyard's surrounding mechanisms were so concentrated that no one had ever heard of before. Even if she were to personally ask to set this up, it would take a huge amount of effort. If some blind senseless person were to intrude in on purpose, or had some ulterior motive, they would absolutely not be able to get away with it. On the contrary, that person would die a horrendous death. Even if Li Moying was not in the sect, no one could casually enter his turf. Having this thought, Huang Yueli felt her luck wasn't too bad after all. Right after she took on this ineffable factotum, she was able to enter the inner chamber right away. Huang Yueli's mood was great, as she started humming a tune and kept looking around. It wasn't as though she had the intentions to do the factotum properly, so when she was working, she was extremely slack. Most of the time she just casually swiped the tablecloth across the surfaces, then pondered on the fact that when she met Li Moying tomorrow, how would she bring up the topic of their previous lives? Actually, the last time when she heard Li Moying talk in his sleep, she was still dubious about Li Moying's identity, and couldn't confirm. But she thought a lot during this period of time. The more she thought carefully, the more she felt Li Moying was indeed Mu Chengying, because the similarities between the both of them was simply too high. Furthermore, recently she had heard some news that Soaring Heavens Continent's #1 top expert, Blue Profound Sect Master Mu, had went into closed-door cultivation in the same year which she passed on, and he had not been out for the past 14 years. There was also a rumor that after Mu Chengying battled the 7 Sacred Lands top experts in northern icefields, breaking the prohibition against taking lives, he himself was severely injured, so he went into rigid closed cultivation. After so many years, he had not been out since, so perhaps he might had already died inside. Not only the rumors were so, even those large sects had started to provoke Blue Profound Sect, but not once had Mu Chengying came out to respond, so that further certified the others' guesses. Huang Yueli indistinctly felt that something was not right with Li Moying. In the past, he had never gone into closed-door cultivation for such a long period of time. As he was a thunder-attributed practitioner, so normally he would need to energize his potential in the middle of battles, before HS could advance, so just based on closed-door cultivation won't do any good. But after finding out about Li Moying's matters, she wasn't willing to accept this deduction subconsciously, and refused to think about the possibility something happening to Mu Chengying. But now, since she started to doubt Li Moying's identity, then linking all the cause and effects together, she got more and more certain that her guess was correct. I wonder, what happened to Mu Chengying after I self-exploded? But he seemed to have totally lost his memories, so probably he himself doesn't even know? Looks like I can only slowly check. After Huang Yueli went through one round, on seeing that the day was not young anymore, she headed back to the outer disciples' residence. Su Qingyu had already returned to her room. She was considered lucky, as she didn't made any move while arguing with Fatty Wang, so the factotum which she was allocated wasn't that bad at all, just responsible for the West Mountains medicinal farm to water the herbs and get rid of weeds. Although taking care of such a large medicinal farm was extremely tiring, but at least there wasn't any danger. Seeing Huang Yueli's return, she immediately rushed up and putting on her gossip cap, she asked, "Sister Li, how was it? Is young sect master's courtyard very pretty? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli was very delighted, but the minute she saw Su Qingyue's anticipated expression, she bashfully raised her chin, as she coughed lightly. Still all right, Su Qingyu smiled. How could it be just all right? It's rumored that young sect master's residence is the best spot in the entire Celestial Light sect. Taking a short walk to the back for around 1/4 of an hour would be the Reflection Sword Cliff, which is especially suitable for cultivation. Furthermore, the rear mountains scenery is picturesque, which is the best place for lovers to talk sweet nothings to each other. But unfortunately, young sect master will only be back tomorrow, otherwise, you probably won't be back here to sleep tonight. Huang Yueli's thoughts started to run amok, as her face flushed red. By the time she regained her senses, she saw Su Qingyu with a teasing smile hanging on her face. To hide her own embarrassment, she intentionally gave Su Qingyu a fierce stare as she said, "Stop talking nonsense. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. Have you forgotten? Li Moying had a huge fight with me, so he left Celestial Light Academy, which is why many people are saying I was ditched by him. Perhaps he's still angry." Hearing that, Su Qingyu asked curiously, "That's right, I haven't asked you, why did you quarrel with young sect master? And it was such a fierce argument, to the point of almost separating?" About this, Huang Yueli apparently couldn't tell the truth, so she just casually found a reason to skimp over it. "Anyway, there was a friend who went over to Celestial Light Academy to look for me some time ago, a male. After that Li Moying misunderstood. This wasn't considered a lie, anyway that was one part of the reason why they parted ways, although it was just a minor, very minor part of it." Su Qingyue's eyes opened wide like full moons, as she said in astonishment, "What? You mean, young sect master had seen you meeting your illicit lover, so he was jealous then quarreled with you?" Huang Yueli replied unhappily, "What meeting illicit lover? I and Liu, have a pure friendship. No, it's actually not even friendship, just mere acquaintance. As for jealous, right, he's always been like that." Saying that, previous life's Mu Chengying also especially loved to be jealous. Any male creature that got close to her within 100 meters would be slashed by his eye sword hundreds of times, from 3-year-old to 300-year-old, none were spared. Huang Yueli bashfully expressed her discontent towards Li Moying's jealousy, but at the same time, she intentionally left out the fact that her jealousy wasn't any better. Su Qingyu was filled with envy. Really hard to imagine that such a cool and stern man like young sect master would be filled with jealousy. He must really love you dearly. Did you know that after you disappeared, he almost flipped the academy upside down completely? So many people sympathized with young sect master. Rest assured, if young sect master knew that you are back, he'd definitely be very happy, so the two of you will be able to reunite smoothly tomorrow. Huang Yueli actually wasn't very certain of that, because the truth was very different from what Su Qingyu understood. Regarding Li Moying's previous life's secret, he himself couldn't recall it, so she wasn't sure if he would believe in her words. Would he felt that she was playing a trick on him? After all, the one who said she hated him, and then now the one who said she liked him, was her. If their roles were reversed, she would probably feel that the other party was temperamental, simply toying around with her feeling. Would Li Moying not believe her? Thinking of this, Huang Yueli started to get apprehensive. Knock knock knock. Just at this moment, a knocking sound resounded. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.